Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show. I'm your host, Ben Hansen, joined by Suriel Vasquez.
Hello.
And Joe Juba.
Hey.
Welcome, fellas. We have a hell of a show. It's going to be a full rotation here. We're doing the full 360. They said it couldn't be done.
We're going to be on that side of the table at one point.
I hope we don't red ring.
Your audio's going to be upside down.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any 360 jokes they want to get out of their system?
Anderson Cooper will be here.
I was thinking about that as a potential funny tweet. I'm like, would anybody get it if I said Anderson Cooper won? Is that too difficult? Anyways, here we go. Here's what's actually on this podcast, right? Touching a little bit on Kuni 2, Revenant Kingdom. Joe Juba, you reviewed that.
That's true.
It's coming out soon.
Yeah, Friday.
Holy cow. There we go. We're going to get Kato in here to talk about A Way Out. That's that bizarre co-op game from the designer of Brothers Halo 2 Sons. Then it's just going to be rapid fire. We're going to talk a little bit of Sea of Thieves, Vermintide 2, Artifact. Sir, you went to Valve.
That's right.
You sat in Valve's office.
I sat in Gabe Newell's chair for 4 hours, and then I left.
Wow.
I read online that you're not very good at Artifact.
No, someone immediately sent up a strategy of like, here's how you should have played your entire game.
For a game that's not it. But we're going to talk about the future of Valve, Artifact. I think it's a fascinating visit that I want to dive deep into. Also touch on Wargames. Suriel, I played this game last night.
Yeah.
And I want to talk to you about it.
Let's do it.
And then email section, we actually have our special winner who won the hashtag GI Show challenge. He's going to be joining us for this episode. Hopefully the Skype works and the time works out and that I won't have to cut this section of the podcast. But in theory, he'll be joining us. That'll be fun. And then back half of the show, we have an interview with Chris Charla, working at Microsoft for the ID at Xbox program. So he goes out and signs indie games like he signed Cuphead and Below. We talk about like development of those games, how they're coming along, what it was like to have the crazy success of Cuphead. We talk a lot about like sales data. It gets a little bit nerdy, but I think people are on board. And
wasn't Below announced like 5 years ago?
Yeah, it was funny because I was looking up old ID at Xbox videos for like B-roll for the interview, and I looked at like E3 2014. It's like front and center, Below, coming soon to Xbox One. But we talk about it, and then I realized we fall down the very obvious cliche rabbit hole, but it's still fun to talk to, where we end up talking about Bill Gates for a while. Good times.
Obvious cliche Bill Gates rabbit hole. Yep.
You know, I say that is because like people still leave comments on like YouTube videos for like, Xbox One reveal, and people are like, boo, tell Bill Gates to go home. It's like a weird slang when talking about Xbox, so it's fun to talk about. But Chris Charla is an interesting guy. He has deep gamer roots. He worked at Next Generation magazine for years and years. He's known the Game Informer folks forever. He started IGN. We talk all about his history with the press and everything, so it's a good chat. Also, this interview was recorded in the past, so don't be confused when he brings up Deep Rock Galactic and I say, what's that? Even though we had talked about it very recently on the podcast.
No, he just forgot immediately after.
It's a confusing time warp. Also, this week on Game Informer's website, we should point out that Jeff Cork went and played the first couple hours of the new God of War on PS4, right?
Yeah, he got a chance to do some hands-on with it, more than we saw in our cover story trip.
Yeah, we kind of got like a slice towards the beginning, but a concrete chunk. But there was a lot of questions, especially on your part, of like, what is going on in the beginning of this game? Where's the mother? What's happening?
Yeah.
He knows all that, and we recorded a new gameplay today video showing it off and showing his time with it. You sat in on that video, Joe.
Yeah.
But like from that video and what you saw Cork playing versus what you played yourself, I don't think we've gotten just like your raw impressions of being a huge God of War fan. How did the combat strike you in general?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think the thing that probably like surprised me the most about God of War's combat is how it can change and be something different while at the same time feeling like God of War.
But what feels like God of War? Because for me, God of War is spinny and blades and blood.
So that all depends really on how you define it. If in your mind God of War is zoomed out camera, big swinging blades, and like crowd controlling a large group of enemies.
Yes.
Which, I mean, in part, yes, that's what it is to me also. But then I think when you distill that stuff down and look at what all of those mechanics are about, what they're supposed to make you feel or experience as a player, the new God of War, from the time that I spent with it, conveys those things just through a different vehicle, sort of. So just the element of like that visceral, brutal combat is still there. That satisfaction of landing just one of those like crushing blows, I feel like it's still there. The flexibility in combat, I guess, is another thing, where it's the idea of, in the old God of Wars, it's like, okay, I'm going to throw some magic, going to swing my blades, going to launch this guy. There's like some element of how you're like managing the battlefield. And that is also present in the new one. From like, I'm going to throw my axe, going to freeze that guy, going to have Atreus shoot at that guy. It's similar sensations, just delivered in different ways.
So it's less arcadey, I would imagine, where it feels like the combat in God of War, especially since like your main weapon was this huge thing that you would like chuck out, basically. Does it feel sort of like the combat aligns with sort of the tone of just like, hey, here's a more sort of stripped down version of this story, but like I feel like that would conflict with like, oh yeah, he's like rushing everywhere and like, dealing all this damage to like enemies and, chucking axes. Like, does it feel like it abides by that tone?
Yeah, I mean, for me, and this, I feel stupid saying this because it sounds like I'm just totally buying into the company line on this.
Correct.
But I think the best word that sums it up for me is like a sense of intimacy in the combat. So,
yeah, they've said it's slower, more methodical in a way.
Yeah. So that's the best way that I've heard it described. So even though, like, yeah, it still has that sort of grittiness. It feels a little more. I don't know. You feel a little more present in it or something.
It's just nice. Also, I mean, after a couple years of just watching kind of vague story, kind of sort of focused trailers and stuff, like our cover story trip, and then like the new gameplay today video. It's nice to just dive into the mechanics and realize like, oh, this is still pretty gamey. Okay, this is a video game after all. It's not like this pure cinematic experience. There's going to be a lot of meat there for fans to dive into.
Exactly. Yeah,
cool.
and we touch on some of this when Jeff and I talk about it in that video online.
Now I've just skimmed that video online, but in that video, does Atreus, his son, pee his pants as a reference to our text adventure?
Repeatedly.
Oh my God, they worked that in?
Yeah, there's so much of it, him just going in and out of the same cabin multiple times. It seems like the beginning of that game's going to be super boring.
There's still eggshells on his head.
Deep cut. All right, Ni no Kuni 2, Revenant Kingdom, man.
Oh yeah, right on.
So this is a beast. It was a lot of you posting in our Slack channel like, I'm still at home playing Ni no Kuni, still at home. And so I didn't know if you're going to come back and be like, this game is 300 hours long. How long is this thing?
So that depends on your approach to it. I think like so many of these games, my timer, well, my official timer, like the one the game records for you, was like somewhere in the 70 hours.
Okay.
But this is also one of those games, like Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was a little like this, where it's like you get benefits for as time just passes. So there were definitely times when, so like you said, I was at home playing the game for review, but there were still times when I had other work to do. So it's like, if I have a few hours of other work to do, I would just let the game run in the background because you accrue this currency over time that lets you like build your kingdom. So
was that other work to do go play a better game?
It was basically just, I should say, this game isn't bad.
Good.
It's not like, oh, I'm going to go play something else because this game sucks. I just had other things to do. But point being is, by my calculations, I was pretty thorough with side quests and things like that, and I ended up around, I'd say, the 50-hour mark for finishing the whole thing.
Cool. To start things out, did you play a lot of Ni no Kuni 1? Did you have opinions on that game before you went into this one?
Well, so here's what I'll say about that. I don't want to delve too far into that, partially because this game is like separate.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it's in that universe. So it's like if you played the first one, you'll recognize like, oh, Ding Dong Dell is a place I know, right? So there are carryover concepts going on, but like generally they are not bound to like using the exact same world that they used in the first game.
It's like a Final Fantasy kind of thing where it's just like every entry is kind of a separate story.
I mean, sort of, except it is in the same universe. It does acknowledge the events of the first game in some way, but I think another reason why I'm hesitant to like lean too hard on the first game when talking about this one is that like I feel like Level 5 took a lot of the criticisms of the first game to heart, and where the first game was very much, I think, almost to a fault, a very traditional JRPG.
Yeah.
They definitely like experiment more with this one.
And that's what you like.
Which I think is, I mean, I like traditional JRPGs also, but what it felt like they were still struggling with in that first game was elements of like difficulty curve and like a game that seems generally accessible until you hit like a weird spike and then you have to go grind for a while, and like things like that felt a little uneven. This game's definitely, I think, more consistent in that regard, but it's consistently way easier.
Oh, really?
Which for me anyway was kind of disappointing because the game doesn't give, I wish that it gave you more options to sort of like tailor the difficulty to the way you want it to be.
There's nothing that
There are options to make it easier, but not options to make it harder.
Okay. Now,
So
Joe,
it's-
you're hardcore as F, though. Is this just, are most people going to run into this problem, you think, where it's just really easy?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, like seriously, there are. What?
So
I don't.
is combat different? Like, does it feel?
It's real time combat now, so
Oh, okay.
it's something that's more akin to like a like a Tales game or something than like a turn based RPG thing.
I know people were comparing the combat to Pikmin. So it's like a Tales game where you have like little minions
see,
thrown out and
that's
stuff?
that's the other thing. So what I want to say before I dig into all of this stuff, because it's going to sound like I'm complaining about it, and
Yes.
I don't want to dig too far to the negative. This review is like, it's on the site now. I gave it an 8. I enjoyed this game. So what I'll say is that like combat, even though it's easy, is like there's something that's sort of like breezy and fun and accessible about it. And like the character designs are cool, the monster designs are cool. So just getting in there and fighting stuff and taking it down, even if it's not like super challenging, it's still like, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's good. But one of the problems with the combat is that like all of these different systems that the games have kind of intersect in combat, which makes sense. Except combat's so easy by itself that all of these other things kind of feel superfluous.
Like you could
Right?
dive deeper, but there's never really a reason to?
Exactly. So the thing that you say about Pikmin, right? There are these little things in the game called higgledies that are
Oh, boy.
little spirits that help you out, and you find them as you go in the world, but you can also like essentially like you craft them and recruit them, and then you can like feed them food and they level up, and then they get stronger, and you can sort of lean on them in different ways in combat.
cool.
Except like if you want, I mean, like I experimented with this system a bit because like I was reviewing the game and I needed to, but like I think you could probably go through this whole game without dealing with that hardly at all.
Weird.
What do you think the experience would be like if you did that, though? Like, do you think like you would have a better experience if you did that? If you just like, I'm just gonna sort of sleep on most of this game systems and just have like, just match my way through the
I don't
combat?
think you'd have a better time with it, but I think it's on the developer to sort of drive the player and give them an incentive to dig into some of those systems, right? Like,
Do you think, though, they're trying to like appeal, because it's a good-looking game. If you don't remember this is the original, and this one is the one that's very Studio Ghibli inspired. It seemed like there was more of a connection to Ghibli in the first game.
yeah, in the first one, it was sort of like there was like an actual collaboration with that studio, and
And
then
then level 5 is like, now we have your secrets, Ghibli. F you. We can do it on our own.
That's essentially what it's. I mean, I think that they have some character artists from the first game sort of made the move over, are still collaborating, but they don't have that official like partnership.
But do you think they're trying to go for an easier route for the overall gameplay just because it is such a good kind of cutesy animated film looking style of a game?
That could be part of it.
Yeah.
That could be part of it. But like, there's all of this, and hey, I mean, I'm not a game developer. I don't know how all of this works, but there's something to me that's kind of at odds where it's like, if what you're aiming for is something that's super accessible and easy to play and kid friendly, then why are you making this big like 60-hour sprawling RPG, like with all of these different complex systems in it? It's
Enough with the negative. How's the rest of the game outside of combat? Like, story is fine, too good.
story is the story is very straightforward. What I want to talk about on the good front is the city building.
Oh, now we're talking Dark Cloud. Here we go.
Because that's really what makes this game. It's a little bit of, I mean, like if you've played like the Suikoden games, it's got that sense of like you're going out there and recruiting people and bringing them back to your base and putting them in different slots. So it's like, oh, this person has a special skill that makes them good in the general store, so I'm going to put them in the general store. This person's good at armor smithing, so like I'm going to put them there, and then I'm going to upgrade the armor smith building. And then when it's upgraded, I can research new things that let me buy and build new armor that I can then augment with different blah, blah, blah.
Those systems are great in theory. I feel like we recently talked about it. God, what was that 3DS? Ever Oasis serial. Remember that?
Yeah.
I never talked about that game. And it's
I
like,
played Ever Oasis.
Yeah,
too.
and it's like, that seems great. The idea of city building in RPG always sounds fun, but it comes down to these specific systems, and if it all ties together, and it's like a clean UI, and this game is good.
It's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it does that well. There are some parts of the interface that you're always like, I wish this were a little different. But for the most part, it does a good job of like making information accessible to you without you having to wade through too many menus to like figure out what you need and stuff. So like really, that's what kept me going on this game, more so than the main story, which is a pretty traditional fairy tale of like, you're a king, you need to start a new kingdom because you were kicked out of your old kingdom. And when you make the central pillar of your new kingdom, I want to create a world without war or conflict.
It's beautiful, man.
So then you go out to get
that?
So then you go out to get all the other countries to sign on. So it's all very sort of like predictable, and I don't really love the way the characters aren't really fleshed out in a way that makes them satisfying. They're just sort of like, once you get them in your party, they're just sort of there.
And they're all very British?
No, not so much.
Okay.
They're kind of fall on the spectrum from British to piratey.
Where do Higgledies fall on that? Can you have a Higgledy party member?
No, they're separate. What the Higgledies are is like when you're fighting in combat, you can choose, like you can actively control one of, like you have 3 party members. You can actively control and switch between any of them, and then the other 2 are AI handled. And then the Higgledies, you have 4 groups of them on the field at one time, and then you just sort of like, they're just sort of there doing their thing, and sometimes you can go and like manually activate them, and then they do like a special move. That's what they do. But what kept me like really invested in this game, and what kept me like enjoying the combat, is all of the side quests to go and get new people. Like new people to bring back to your town to make your town better. And of course, the bigger you get your town, the more money you make as like time progresses, which means that then that's the bigger stuff you can afford, the more upgrades, the more research, all of that stuff. So like the city essentially functions as like your progression system. It's like your skill tree.
That's cool.
So the city determines going through the city is how you determine like how good the equipment is that you can build, how much experience you and like your party members, you can boost that through battle, like what items you have access to, uncursing items, things like that.
So speaking to like what you said about, you know, having the game having all these peripheral elements that you can ignore, do you feel like you can ignore the city building and like, or do you, like if I'm not really feeling this part of the game, like can you just skip it? And
I don't think you can skip the city building entirely, because like I said, that's basically your skill tree. That's how things, you know, like that's how you get better at stuff. And you might be, I mean, maybe you could put minimal effort into it if you were putting maximum effort into other areas.
But it does feel pretty core to.
But yeah, I mean, it's like, well, and more than anything else, it is, I think, just hands down the best part of the game. It's like, if you ignore that, I don't know why you're playing this game.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Oh, Serial, do you remember who directed this game?
No. I never learned it, so I can't forget it.
There we go. Same director as Overblood 2. And the programmer at Overblood 1. So if you're a fan of Overblood, definitely check out Nino Kuni 2.
the unofficial sequel to Overblood 2.
Are there any Overblood references in this thing?
You know, not that I could catch.
God.
Weirdly enough.
Just give us one Higgledy D that looks like Raz Carson. Is it too much to ask?
Or I don't know, a peepo in your armory or something.
It's right there, dude.
Yeah,
it's so easy.
So yeah, I mean, ultimately, this is one of those games that I had a really good time with, has some parts of it that are really engaging, and the parts that aren't as good don't usually dip down into like bad territory. It's just like, hey, this is decent, this is okay, and then there are times when it gets
sort of like lost opportunities more than actual detriments.
Exactly, yeah.
There we go. Nino Kuni 2, 8.0, review on the site. Joe, thank you so much. I know you have important work to do back in the Game Informer office. You want to give Serial a high five there?
Yeah.
See ya.
Bam.
B.
There we go. Matthew Gatto and Ben Reeves are joining the podcast now. Welcome, guys.
How you doing?
Real good.
Real
my
good.
two best buds. My two buddies, if I were ever to break out of a prison and go and steal a truck, I would get you two, but I'd divide you by a single split screen, see?
Vertically or horizontally?
You tell me, buddy. We're talking about A Way Out. It's the game that is captivating, confusing. You might recognize it as the game who's being made or being led by Josef Fares, who gives very bombastic interviews. He's on the GI show over E3 and screamed to the mic a lot and swore a lot and scared Tim Schafer, I think, who was sitting on the couch next to him. And he said F the Oscars and everything. But this is his first game with the new Hazelight Studios, but he also made Brothers Tale of Two Sons. Kato, A Way Out. Were you intrigued before you went in? Give me your evolution of A Way Out interest.
Yeah, I was very intrigued, and like a lot of you, I think I had the same impression of Mr. Ferris. You know what I mean? Like his passion, as they say, really comes through. And I had a meeting at E3 where he set up the game and showed me some stuff or whatever, and so that was kind of cool to get that first that was the first impression, in the sense that you had a person here who was speaking directly about the project, but it wasn't just like, oh, here it is in the press conference, or here it is. It was
Yeah.
before the EA E3 press conference, by the way. It wasn't just that, or it wasn't just a fact sheet that gets thrown in your inbox. It was like, here's the developer who's going to talk about something that is clearly very, kind of personal to them.
Yeah, it's dripping with enthusiasm. And the actual game itself, I mean, would you describe it as just a weird co-op action adventure, or what's the genre this thing ultimately boils down to?
Yeah, I would say it's very much a co-op action adventure. I wouldn't say it's weird, and I'll say that in a couple ways. One is all the co-op stuff that you're going on. So you're seeing, like you're talking about, split screen, horizontal, vertical, all that kind of stuff. No diagonal though. Is that it's all seamless. It all works. So even if, let's say, it's horizontal, I'm up here, Ben's down here, and then it might switch appropriately during one scene because the action dictates it. It might switch, to vertical, and all that sort of stuff. You could see it happening, but it doesn't distract you from what you need to do. Even if, let's say, I know, okay, I'm on the left because I'm this character, I'm Vincent, let's say, and Leo's over here as Ben. I may even kind of look over what he's doing time to time, just to say, like, oh, he's got himself in a pickle there, or he's strangling some dude out or something. Well, I'm
Sounds
just
like Leo, all right.
Yeah, Leo.
This is character Leo, not Leo in the booth, by the way.
Yeah.
For clarification.
Well, I don't know. I mean, Leo, have you ever strangled anybody out?
It's a good question.
I can
No
answer
comment?
for him.
All right.
Wow. I'll be
That's
damned.
right. I
was
was
gonna say no
pending.
comment.
I understand how that goes. But
Why I say weird, Kato, is because this is a game you cannot play by yourself even if you want to. As Ben Reeves and I both learned last night as we're trying to get crossplay working and it wasn't working very well.
Did not work.
Did not work.
I was pretty excited to break out of the prison, but
But this is press pre-release issues.
couldn't
with the
break
different-
into EA's prison.
yeah, and I've tested that, by the way, actually, and it all works. It all works fine. It actually works in the voice as well. So me and intern John, we had headsets on, and we're obviously communicating and stuff like that.
But what's awesome is
works.
this game's like what I think it's like $30, and the
Yep.
cool part is you don't need to buy 2 copies. You can, if you have 1 copy, you can rope a friend in. It'll let them download it and play with you. Which,
For free on their end.
yeah,
Yep.
has it ever been done? That's such an awesome idea.
There was like Far Cry, 4 gave you codes to like play. I don't know if they could
yeah.
play the full game, but they could definitely play with you.
Yeah, you're
for
totally
free.
right.
So I think other games have experimented with it, but like on this level, I can't think of another game that's gone like, here's the whole game.
Yeah.
But you have to because you can't play this single player.
Right, and you can play randomly online, which I think could be a fascinating journey-like experience. So I watched you play a little bit yesterday, Kato. What I'm still trying to figure out about the game is like, the objectives seem very simple from at least the section I saw, where it's like, okay, go here, get this item, bring it over here, brothers-like style objectives. But is there a lot of opportunity for like trolling your co-op partner? Because that's like peak co-op, is messing with your buddy. Is there?
Sure.
Are there going to be situations, if you play this locally in a room or online, where you and your friends are going to scream at each other and say, "You idiot! What are you doing?"
I think there might be some of that, just because maybe hang around idiots. You
Yeah,
know,
exclusively.
something that happens to a lot
Every
of us.
day at work, yeah.
But I wouldn't, and there are open world elements in the sense that you could go, play some baseball, like have one person pitch, have another person bat, and you're throwing curveballs or whatever. And
So
they're
by open world
getting all
activities, you mean just
frustrated.
like you can dick around with like little side
Yeah.
quests, side
I'm
activities
sorry.
and stuff?
The phrase open world, I know it's kind of loaded, so let me, explain that properly.
Sure.
Certainly you can walk around the world and go find things and do things that are not related to, let's say, if you're in a chase sequence, you're in a chase sequence. But if, let's say, you're just, walking around looking to see how to get past this particular gate, or, before you're going to do something in particular, you can do those things. But, I really didn't find those aspects are there, and there's a lot of them in there. And I think that they color the world and they try to set up, make the world a real place. But I got to be honest with you, I felt that they were so peripheral a lot of times. And so just sort of like, okay, we're 2 fugitives on the run. Let's play some darts. You know what I mean?
Well, weird stuff.
It really didn't add a lot. And so back to your original question of like, are you going to be trolling your friends?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, you can go run around and bump into each other, or like, play some games.
Sounds
but
pretty good.
Sounds pretty good.
I just don't feel that I don't feel it's the level of what you're getting at, because
It's
a
more
lot of your
straightforward.
interactions are very straightforward, very simple.
I don't know what I expected from this game, but I was talking to intern John, who played it with you, and he's like, oh, there's a bunch of mini games in the game, and he's like ranking them and like sort of listing them out to me, and I was like, what is this? It sounds like this game, like these two guys break out of prison and then they spend the next 8 hours just playing every game they run across on their journey through. It's like, oh, here's some darts, let's play that. Oh, here's a soccer field, let's go play.
The greatest game of all, choking out people that live in a farmhouse. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right in the sense that, not to say the game as a whole is frivolous or is wacky or zany. I think it maintains a tone for its characters, and I think that it does have its story. It follows its story and completes its story in the way it wants to. You know what I'm saying? Whereas like the vision is complete, but I do think that those particular elements that we're talking about, like playing the games and stuff, like. And I'm guessing here, but I think it's a measure to try to say like, hey, this is a world, and you have some freedom into it, and it's not just about, doing rapid button presses to get out of a chokehold.
It's much less telltale than you think.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's an attempt to do that and to flesh out the world, but I didn't find it interesting or that well implemented.
Well, it seems like Josef Fares talks a big game for story-wise, and he came from the world of film, right? Like, so even sounds like the gameplay is not good, but even story is also not, like the characters aren't interesting. It's not, the story is not there.
You're leading the witness, Reeves.
The story.
Excuse me. Is the story there?
Define if. No, I think that. I think that the story, it's pretty simple, which is not a problem. I mean, you have your two convicts who need to escape out of prison, which, that's not a spoiler. That's well known. And you sort of have a shared, you have a shared adversary, which is kind of what drives you on. And it's simple in the sense that it works and it doesn't get in its way, and it's not about, twists for twist's sake or anything like that.
But were you
engaged? It all works. And I did like the ending. So let me back up and say I did like the ending, and where some things come together and where some, themes and plot points are, I think, successfully reinforced. But I would say that it's a game. And so you're playing it for about 6 hours, right?
Okay.
So if between the setup and the end, and you're doing these things in the middle, there's banter and there's talk between the two of them, but it's the game, that gameplay in that world that I think doesn't reinforce the story enough to be like, you know what? I was on this 6 hour crazy thing. I was drained at the end, and I was so connected with these characters. Because let me contrast it, if I may, with a popular game that has certainly a bigger budget, but I think I kept thinking while I was playing A Way Out, it's not like Uncharted.
Right.
Uncharted is a game that successfully, although it had its action problems in the first couple iterations, but when it got towards the end, it was like the gameplay and the action could carry me. The story, the character interactions, and with the banter and like the way the dialogue and where the voice lines were written and everything, I believed in those characters. I cared about those characters, and that was another thread that followed me from beginning to end. Those are the kind of things that A Way Out doesn't do as successfully.
That's a high bar to clear, though.
It is. But again, and that doesn't make A Way Out a bad game, but in terms of like, the story, and you're talking about the characters grabbing you, that's something that, it's not like, oh, they're horrible. It's just that I didn't get that.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up Naughty Dog, the cream of the crop, but seeing a little bit of the game yesterday, it was a much higher production level than I was expecting. Maybe I'm just so used to the Life is Strange, Telltale mold. I was kind of expecting it to be more in that vein, but there's like crazy car chase sequence and stuff where it's like they spent some money on this game. It's the production value's up there, man.
Yeah, and it looks good. I mean, it does look good. It's just, I think, one of the other things I want to mention real quick, and I mentioned this in my review, but it's like you're talking about like the characters and whether I believe them and I was invested in them to the end. And one of the gameplay things that I don't think necessarily matches up is that. So you have sort of choice points where it's like, okay, we have these people in the farmhouse. Are we gonna sort of divert their attention by letting out the horses out of their barn so they go and chase the horses? Or are we gonna literally subdue them to sort of so they don't, cause us trouble so we can, steal their truck and be on our way? Well, one of them represents kind of the hothead character's way of doing things. Guess which one it is. And the other one's the more practical guy's way of doing things. Well, if you choose, let's say, the hothead way, you can choose, let's say, to subdue the couple, and there's no consequence in the sense that you're always going to end up with at the end with the same cutscene where you know what I mean.
Okay,
And it's not like if you choose the hot-headed ways, Leo's way all the time. It's not like all of a sudden that's going to create some sort of character moment or character progression for the other guy. You know,
It's giving the appearance of choice much more than it's actually
yeah,
diverging.
and it's not like we're talking about Telltale. It's not a choice-based game.
Yeah.
But that's one of those ways where like the gameplay and the story, they don't necessarily come together and follow through on this in the same way where you're just like, oh, I guess I could have just chose anything and it wouldn't have.
But it's weird to
wouldn't
present
matter.
a bunch of choices and then they don't ultimately mean anything.
Yeah, I mean the story
weird.
gets there in the end anyway, but like you said, you're just there asking yourself, oh, we'll just do it any old way.
I feel
Yeah.
bummed. I feel like I was kind of excited about this game. I actually made a pact with Kyle because I thought he'd be reviewing it for some reason.
Did you guys do the old?
Yeah, we
got the
sliced
knives
our,
out and
uh,
sliced your
knives.
those old
palms
hotheads.
open? Yeah,
Shook her hand and then,
you could do that.
drew something on the ground. I won't tell you what. But but I was excited to play it and because I really liked Brothers. And as I've been reflecting on like what you've been saying on this game, I'm reflecting on Brothers and I'm like, did I really like Brothers? Because I'm like my time with that game, it was really just you get to the end of the game and like there's a really strong moment at the end of the game.
Right.
I think that's what I really liked about Brothers was that
Yes.
strong moment. But the rest of the game was kind of like it was okay.
It was fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
And so I kind of wonder if this is the game. Like, this is what they did with Brothers. This is largely, it's okay. They did kind of what they did, and it's just missing that one strong moment.
You know, I mentioned how I like the ending. I think I can't speak for you. I can speak for everybody. I think there is the way it comes together at the end. I think is satisfying. You know how strong it is. I'm not going to say, but I did find that when I got to the end, it's like, okay. I like how that came together. I just think that there's when you add more gameplay, when you broaden things out, for this game, when you can tell that not everything comes together, that does sort of weaken things a bit. But I mean, I would say, sort of 10,000-foot view. If you're intrigued by the game and you're like, you know what, I'm going to play with so-and-so and they're kind of interested in this game.
Yeah.
I think because you can, you can do the whole co-op thing or whatever and do it, online, like we were saying at the beginning. I do think it's worth it to try it out because it's not like I said, it's not a failure. It's just that like I can see things that really don't come together, I think, the way that they're supposed to.
It's almost like you're describing a Game Informer 7 out of 10 game. You got
yeah, it probably got somewhere between a 7.25 and a 7.25 and a 6.75.
Okay.
Somewhere between those
Somewhere in that window.
two, yes.
All right. If you want to learn more, you can check out Kato's review, A Way Out, everybody. Hey, thanks for coming. Kato, I love you dearly. Do you want to find a way out the door by clapping there, buddy?
All right.
Bye. Okay, what the hell we got here? We got Serial Vasquez back in the action
I'm
again.
back.
Ready
Can't
to
get
talk
rid of me.
Nino Kuni. We have JV Gwaltney joining the show.
Hey, glad to be here.
And Ben Reeves will never leave. All right, we should probably talk about Sea of Thieves. This is an odd one, right? Because we've talked about it before on the show with the beta. We got our extensive hands-on time with it. We were left with a lot of questions. Now the person who's getting every question answered is Kyle Hilliard, but he's busy doing the review, so he can't be on this podcast. But Ben Reeves, you've been playing with Kyle a fair amount.
right.
And we also did a live stream a
Against
couple
my
days
will.
ago. What have you learned about this game? Because we were left with the questions of, it's a silly sandbox that seems fun,
Right.
but we don't know what the horizon looks like for this thing.
Yeah,
Do you
they were
understand
like,
it?
The sea was open with possibilities.
Hey,
Where is this
brother.
going to go? And it turns out that's what we were playing was pretty much it. So it was the big question for me was like, okay, they have this cool open world. You can kind of like do a bunch of silly things as pirates and you go on shared adventures, but like what are those adventures going to look like?
Yeah.
And the adventures we had in the beta were pretty thin and kind of randomly generated, very similar adventures where you're looking for treasure chests that are buried, or you're maybe hunting a specific like skeleton enemy, and that was about it.
Yeah, the most dangerous game.
That's right, and that's still kind of all that we've seen from the mission types. It's just very
After
kinda
how many
thin.
hours have you been playing?
I mean, Kyle's put in way more time than I have. I've probably put in 5 hours or so. So
Okay.
not a ton, but Kyle's put in way more than that, and he says it's still the same.
JV, have you seen much of this game?
Yeah, it seems like a game I do not want to play.
Really? Because
Yeah.
I hadn't really seen much at all, and then we did that 2-hour stream earlier this week, and I was actually really into it. Like, I thought, just water tech alone, that sea looks a hell of a lot better than
yeah.
I thought it would. And then it's just like, even if this game is just co-op, pretty looking, playing grab ass with your friends. Like, I think there's an audience for that. I'm kind of happy that Microsoft is releasing such a weird AAA game. Isn't it cool?
Conceptually, yeah, it's
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
Yeah, see, the problem is I was talking about this with Miller earlier, and because he just put up an opinion piece on the site that he doesn't know like who this game is for.
Yeah.
And he went through like all the various scenarios for it. Like he walked away from the game thinking, okay, this could be for kids. I could see this being fun, if you're like a parent and you're playing this with your 7-year-old and you guys are really having a lot of fun. But then he says that he got, he had just completed a mission, climbed up on a boat and had this other group of players just come and scream like all these obscenities and slurs at him and take his money and kill him. And he's just like, well, I guess that's it.
What were pirates supposed to do? Kiss you on the cheek and give you a flower?
Play grab
Come
ass.
on.
Yeah.
You want to teach your kids, raise them right.
But like my issue with it, and this isn't necessarily even a thing with Sea of Thieves, is like I got all of my piratey adventures out with Assassin's Creed 4. To me, that's like the perfect like pirate game.
Totally.
Yeah, and Sid Meier, right? Like that game.
Sid Meier.
How do you say it? Sid Meier.
Meier.
Is he related to Brad?
My bad.
God, Jamie.
Okay, anyway, but like between those two games, I'm good. I don't really need like a procedurally generated multiplayer game with my friends in the pirate
But the
universe.
friends is the big thing, right? That seems to be the make or break. Like if you have a group of silly friends that want to just run around and steal people's ships and
Right.
sink them, like that seems like there's something there.
Right, but like it's to me there's this sort of genre of like I guess they call it lifestyle games is what they go for, where you log on, you play, games with your friends, and it becomes this thing that you just do after work for like 2 or 3 hours and you have a lot of fun and you go on wacky and silly adventures, and I can see the appeal in that. And I've had that with like Monster Hunter World and like Destiny, but there needs to be something there. A game can't just be an occasion for social activity. And it just sounds like Sea of Thieves is thin as hell when
Have
it
you
comes
ever
to
heard
that.
of golf? I mean,
I would
I'm
say,
totally with you.
Yeah,
though.
the sentence of a game can't be. It always wrestles me a little bit because it's like it's weird if people know exactly what they're getting into. Maybe that is enough. Maybe like because the idea is what you're not like getting better loot, right, Reeves?
No, in fact, that's the weird part. Is like all the loot is basically just gold. You find these treasure chests. In some cases, they're skulls or other things, but you bring them back, and it converts it all into just money, generic one currency, and then you can buy things, but it's all cosmetics, and it's just like, and the other weird part of that, I just realized as I played them, like I've bought a couple cosmetics, but I spend most of the game. The game is first person, so I don't see half the stuff I buy unless I'm dancing or something,
Yeah.
So it's really all the stuff I'm buying is for other people to see, which is kind of weird.
So fair to say you're cooling on the game with more time, or how are you feeling about it?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of suspected this was going to be the problem I would have with it, even back when I went to the studio and saw it like a few months ago. Like I was like, there's a cool element, like you'll go into a mission and I can hop in a cannon and a guy will shoot me across the water and I'll hop on another pirate ship and steal their ship and then make off with their loot. And like that sequence is awesome and fun and I'm having fun with my buddies. So those moments are there, but like the long term, like there's no long term hooks. Like JV was saying, like I love those parts of Destiny hanging out with my friends and shooting stuff, but there was also the hook of like I'm upgrading my gear. Like there's those numbers that I can see going up.
Yeah. It
Sea
just
of Thieves
feels
doesn't have that.
I think to speak to JV's point, it just feels like what is sort of the incentive driving you to this game over other things when you're trying to like figure out how you're going to spend time with friends like online. It just doesn't seem like I'm not sure. I've only played for 10 minutes or whatever, but I'm not entirely sure what the draw is because like I mean what I played was just one mission of me running to an island, whacking a bunch of aliens with my skeletons, with my sword, and then just like Miller found the chest, and then everyone swam back to ship. So it didn't seem like, okay, is it just this for however many hours you want to put into it?
But then,
Did you say what is this ship?
Good stuff.
That's right.
Did you yell it? Okay.
But like if a rival pirate ship comes around and messes with you and you have some crazy fight, it's just end of the year, Serial. Do you think Sea of Thieves is going to be a success story?
I would maybe probably say no.
Really?
Like I imagine there will be a community because I think communities spring up for pretty much any game, but like I don't think that
Have you heard of golf?
A drawn to death community.
I don't think we'll be talking too much about it, months down the road. But I could totally be wrong, obviously.
It is one of those games where I'm like, I don't even know if this is going to make our top 50. Like, we'll have to see how the year shakes out.
Really
I don't
curious
wanna
of
call
what
it this
Kyle
early,
thinks
but-
with the official review.
Oh,
and
yeah.
whatnot as
I mean,
well.
I don't want to say that, but it is like like, it's one of those games that could be on the bubble where like some people could really get into it, but I don't know if anybody in our office.
That's going to be the most contentious argument of the top 50. It's just like Sea of Thieves or whatever else.
It does seem like a game like I feel like this is inherent in those like lifestyle games where you could like get heavy into role playing with it, like just have a dedicated group of friends and you like adopt the language and stuff, and you sing shanties.
That sounds fun.
That sounds fun, but it requires so much work that I don't think like a general audience will be into. Like I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I would watch like someone do that though, and like read a piece about someone doing that, but I would not want to do that myself.
Read a piece about someone
like,
singing sea shanties?
Yeah, for sure.
That's the most JV sense of all time.
It's such a weird game.
piece.
I've had like a number of people text me or talk to me, and I'm just bragging that I have friends. But they ask me like, should I buy this game or should I play it? And I'm like, this is such a like more so than any other game I've played recently, like such a complicated answer because I'm like, there's moments in this game that I've had a lot of fun with.
Yeah.
But it's also like I don't really feel the urge to like go back and play it anymore. Because I feel like I had my fun in like an hour.
Yeah, I mean it's doing well on Twitch. I'm curious to see how long that lasts and what that audience is like. I think it shows well in those if you have like a good group showing it off, and I'm sure that'll help sales a fair amount.
Sure. Yeah, I also wonder to what degree the beta was huge on Twitch when it was around, and I wonder how much of that was just curiosity, like what is this game? Because I never felt like before release that we got a sense of what this game was. So I think a lot of people were tuning in just to figure out what that game was, and we'll see how it shakes out.
And they tune in and laugh. Yeah, it's a weird deal. Real quick before we get to cool Vermintide stuff, JV, and get hardcore as all hell, we should talk to Suriel about going to Valve. This is crazy. Reeves, you've been to Valve once or twice?
3 times, I
Good
think, actually.
God.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's been a while, right?
It's been a year, but yeah.
But still, Suriel got to go to Valve just a couple weeks ago. How excited were you to walk through those doors?
It was awesome. They let me hold the Aegis of Champions, which is the thing that the international winning team gets to hold up at the end of the ceremony.
Really?
So,
But they didn't let you hold the gravity gun.
They didn't let me hold.
Well, that's lame then.
To be
Who
fair,
gives
no,
a
people didn't ask. There was a whole thing where someone was like, "Can I hold that?" And then there was like a whole session where everyone got to hold the Aegis, but we didn't do that for the gravity gun because it's not a working gravity gun.
What a waste. Why did you even go?
Because it doesn't work.
There's like the overall mystique around Valve is like, oh, it's a black box. I'm sure they're up to a bunch of stuff in there, but communication isn't great for them. Maybe directly with the community, they're updating Dota, stuff like that. But in terms of like communication with the press, it's always mysterious. And so, did it feel like it was tearing down a curtain? You feel like, oh, this is what's going on in Valve.
We definitely had to tear down a curtain because we were left in the lobby for a little while just after our appointment, and we had to text the PR person to say, just come up to this floor, just take the elevator and come up to the floor. And we were all waiting in the lobby like, what's going to happen? But I mean, throughout the entire visit, they seemed very communicative. Like they were very, like they wanted, this seemed like this was them sort of opening up about sort of not only Artifact, but a lot of what they've been doing sort of basically throughout their entire, career as a company.
Did you get a tour of the office?
Yeah, we got a tour.
It was pretty cool.
It was apparently, I think it's this might be their new office.
Since like 4 or 5 years ago, or
yeah, I think it was pretty recent. And so like they walked us around and showed us all the fancy kitchens they have.
It is super weird. It's like, oh, there's a fancy kitchen, and they'll lead you down another hallway, and it's like, this is our workout center, and they have like professional like trainers who are hired by Valve to like train them.
A hallway that I guess one of our employees decided to make look like one of the monoliths or whatever they're called from Half-Life 2, those black barriers or whatever that they have.
It's like, this is what you guys have been doing? It's like you guys have all this money and you're just sort of like doing a bunch of stuff.
I think I found the reason no games are coming out of Valve. They don't have anybody working on games.
Turned the hall, opened a door, and it was like that scene in Wayne's World where they had those dudes training.
They apparently had a thing where I guess people would bring their kids and stuff, and so as they started getting older, they would become teenagers, like most kids do. And they had this room that they had called the sulking room, where I guess they could hang out there. The teenage offspring of Valve could hang out. It was weird.
It's like Teen Titans for Valve employees.
What is it, like Hot Topic?
No, it is a darkened room though. Like it is.
Oh, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Did you see Left 4 Dead 3? Did you see Half-Life 3? Was there anything? Were there walls of people actually working?
All mentions of 3 were wide. Like on the elevator, like they had scratched off the number 3.
What did you see? Were there people making games on computers in Valve?
Yes, we walked past someone and they said like you don't want to look at that, and there was a guy working on a computer that I imagine was making a game. I hope.
You're like, yes, I do want to see that.
But I mean, before sort of they showed us Artifact, they sat us down and, Gabe Newell had this very long talk about, what they've been doing. And part of his spiel was that, Valve is going to start shipping games again, was his quote.
And then I think he said, yippee.
Hooray.
Yeah.
Hooray.
Hooray.
So there's some good news.
I don't know if you listen to that audio. I'm a big Valve dork, and I made Surreal send me the audio. I sent it to JV. I don't know if you listened to it either, but it's fascinating because it's Gabe like kind of slowly walking through the history of Valve and saying like, here was the point of this release. Here was the point of this release. Here's the point of this release. But he's still a fascinating dude, and it's one of the richest men on the planet, and I think he's worth listening to. What did you learn overall from that presentation then that really stood out to you?
It just seems like a lot of it, like you said, Valve always has felt like a black box company, and I think an orange box company. I understood a lot of why they've done this. So like, if you think about sort of recent Valve, and I think a lot of the people have been disappointed, and will basically lash out anytime Valve announces something that isn't Half-Life 3, is because they're like, oh, you should be making games that I like again. And sort of a lot of what they basically walked us through sort of why they didn't do that. Because, after they made Portal 2 and they kind of felt like we've done everything, like Portal 2 and Left 4 Dead were basically them trying to do something new with co-op, and sort of the episodes were sort of them trying to release something every year because they wanted to have feedback from players more often. And so after sort of Portal 2, they wanted to revive Counter-Strike and Dota because of their in-game. They wanted to muck with in-game economies because they had the marketplace. And so after a while, they realized that, there was some contention about platforms. So like, iOS was a very closed down platform, and they were kind of worried that Microsoft was going to do the same thing with Windows 10. So that's why they made SteamOS. And they wanted to do hardware because they were envious of Nintendo and the way that Miyamoto can like design a game for a specific piece of hardware.
But hang on, this is worth drilling on a little bit more, because that was the most interesting part of the talk. He was talking about how they've always been jealous of Nintendo, but now because of Vive, they said they're like, we have a lot of people who had to learn a bunch of hardware stuff, and we have those in-house now. And they certainly seem to imply that like we're going to be taking advantage of that hardware focus moving into the future. And I was a little bit unclear if he was talking specifically about Vive, but it certainly felt like him saying they're going to do some more hardware efforts in the future combined with software that can make it more of an all-in-one thing.
Right. Because they want to be able to tackle any project that they want. So a lot of sort of the gap between sort of, let's say, Dota 2 and now was sort of them trying to figure out how to do new things with like hardware and stuff, and sort of the products that ended up. And so they eventually said, okay, now we're kind of at a point where we're comfortable. We could do whatever we wanted with and feel confident about it. So now, here's Artifact, and also this is sort of us getting started back up on the game production machine.
Yeah, I don't know what the timeline's going to look like, but they said like, yeah, we're going to start shipping these games again. And that was the crazy thing, is just talking about like, this was new. And he even bashed like something like PUBG a little bit, or he's talking about like, oh, a lot of games are popular on Steam, but they're not doing anything new. Like PUBG isn't necessarily doing anything new. And it's like, oh, geez.
I think that was more in the context of like, oh yeah, we were able to host Steam, which, like even if we didn't do anything, PUBG could still become, this incredible moneymaker for us because it's on our storefront. But that's not, I think sort of the way it was meant to be received was, I think, but that's not us, making a concerted effort to try something new.
Gotcha. But it's fun hearing what a smart guy like Gabe, like who he looks up to.
Right.
And something that repeatedly came up at different points in that discussion was Pokemon.
Right.
Really?
He talked about Pokemon as being sort of the world's biggest entertainment franchise of just like anything you can think of. Pokemon has made more money.
He
than
said
that.
it's quote.
Has he heard of Star Wars? I don't know.
Absolutely. He says Pokemon is benchmark for game and trading card game and linear media. He said it is quote the single most valuable entertainment franchise in history, more than the Super Bowl or all of Valve's products, more than Harry Potter. Talking about the card game aspect, the
wonder
TV
if that's
aspect.
true. I
I remember looking up something about that recently, and I think he might be right. Of just like in terms of products sold all over the world, I think Pokemon does make the most money.
And he also
but this is according to Wikipedia.
And later on, he was talking about TV show tie-ins and stuff, and he's like, "Oh, there's Pokemon, which has a TV show, which is awesome."
Yeah, he said like, they've done Pokemon is awesome. They do the TV show. Like, I don't know if we're gonna do that with Artifact, but like, he constantly brought up Pokemon and Nintendo as sort of their not necessarily templates of examples that to sort of guide people towards what they want to do. Which is like an interesting thing to think about.
So if they, I feel like we just went through this cycle a couple of years ago of like, oh, the Steam box, Steam's gonna make a console. Here it comes, the Steam box, and then it's like, oh, okay, people aren't really that interested in buying the specific branded Steam box type thing. And I don't want to get sucked into this hype train again. But like JV, what would you want them to do if they made something hardware focused?
I'd want to. Oh man, I don't even know, because the hard thing is like it's hard to imagine any hardware coming from Valve that is not connected to VR in some way because of like just how much they've sort of grappled onto the Vive.
But it's still partnered through HTC, and so they're not all in necessarily.
That's what it always feels like. Every time they do hardware, they don't sort of go all in. They always kind of hedge their bets a little bit, and like, they're not hardware manufacturers, so it makes sense. But they're like, if we're going to do this, we need a partner and somebody to take all the risks with the hardware, like HTC, like they did with the Steam boxes.
Yeah,
I think I'd like something, man. I think I'd like something like Valve's version of the Switch with the Steam controller.
It's so stupid just to hear that discussion and hear him bring up Nintendo and the Switch. Then it's like, okay, now I can't stop thinking about if Valve released something like the Switch.
Like I got a laptop recently, and I took it to a cafe to do some work. When I finished, I actually played some Counter-Strike. And I thought, and while I was playing it, I was thinking, this is cool and all, but I'd really like to have this on the Switch playing with my Pro Controller. Because it just, it's a different experience. It feels like it's more than just like, oh, I don't have to carry this much around. Like, it is a different experience to play, I feel like, a game on Switch versus a game on your laptop. Like, in a cafe, there's something about it. There's something that's really hard to explain.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are pros and cons to both, but I kind of want that for Half-Life.
But I feel like with, like, NVIDIA Shield, like, so many people in that PC area have done stuff like the Switch. Like, I feel like Valve would think it's old hat just to go for like a portable system.
Right. Sure,
like
but
that.
I feel like they could easily iterate on that stuff because that's all been streaming and that's all been sort of like, hey, we're going to use the power of your PC to run this stuff on your, on this NVIDIA Shield thing. So I could see them saying like, well, Nintendo didn't necessarily give up on the idea of the Wii U after it failed. So maybe we could just improve that idea. But I mean, maybe we're taking sort of their inspiration from Nintendo a little too, literally. But,
yeah, I think so. Or even I'm thinking of something, because I can't get out of this Nintendo mold, of thinking like if Valve released something like the Pokewalker, something, and Gabe's super into wearable tech, even outside from the headset and the VR realm. Like there's got to be something small and simple that will have software so beautifully connected to it, because that's what they're jealous of.
Knife.
Oh, go on.
Yeah, it's just a knife with technology in it.
How much are we talking?
300.
Take it!
Oh, here's the money!
I'd really
I
like
can see them
Valve.
making a phone.
Actually, I have a new answer. You know those really weird sunglasses from Heavy Rain that FBI director has? That's what I want Valve to
AR.
make.
Valve's Heavy Rain sunglasses. Come
Yes.
one, come all.
Well, that's what
That's
I was
like
thinking.
the one good idea David Cage ever had as a writer.
How did you play that Navajo chapter? I don't know, man.
If they could figure that out, if they could get it all the tech and all the batteries into one headset that just worked with your phone or something,
Oh, yeah, that'd be
that
cool.
would
Something like Google Cardboard.
that could
but,
be
like,
cool, yeah. But something that was powered and
Something for gamers.
I
Yeah.
guess. It was also really fun just to hear how loose he was talking about the licenses. Like they talked about how they wanted to make this game, this card game,
Right.
and they brought in the designer of
Magic the Gathering, Richard Garfield.
Good Get.
Yeah.
Brought that dude in, and then they're like, all right, we should attach it to some IP. And they said that, like, we even talked about, like, making a new IP. Do we attach this to Half-Life? Do we attach it to Team Fortress? What do
Right.
we attach it to?
Because the origin of Artifact, was that Richard Garfield was just making a new card game because he's designed other card games besides Magic. I think he made a Netrunner game. And a couple of like a few other very popular things that people like, and so he was shopping around his new card game, which I already had sort of like the 3-lane setup.
Okay.
And so he eventually started talking with someone he knew at Valve, and they like a couple years later they were like, yeah, let's do it. And so now they've brought on the guy who made Magic, and I think a lot of the design philosophy of this game is sort of influenced by sort of by the fact that it's similar to Magic.
But after your gameplay sessions, I'm curious to find out if you can make magic happen again, JV. Cyril, did you like
at
the
our
game,
gathering, no, I came away from Artifact very excited for it, but also cautious about sort of other aspects. So I think the gameplay is really good. So basically, just imagine playing Hearthstone across 3 different fronts, but with the turn order of Gwent. It sounds a little complicated.
That's all we need to know. That's good. Okay.
Right. So you basically, there's stuff like you take towers and you summon. So the big difference here is your hero units. So instead of in Magic, where I'm gonna just summon monsters, and when they're dead, you don't have to get them back from the graveyard. You basically have 5 heroes that you're always sending into battle, and when they die, they come back 2 turns later. Except for with exceptions because card games. So basically, the point is to destroy 2 of the opponent's towers. Or destroy one of their ancients, which spawns when you destroy one of the towers. And so there's all these different. It's very intricate. I think that was the other big takeaway of just.
It's tough.
Well, not necessarily difficult, and not tough, but there's just a lot to keep track of.
There's a lot to learn.
Right.
It looks intimidating compared to like something like Hearthstone, which even in the
Yes.
presentation, it was awesome to hear Gabe talk about. Like that's the
benchmark. Yeah, that's the benchmark.
Hearthstone is the benchmark.
Yeah.
Right, of like, here's the premier card game. But I think Richard Garfield was talking about how part of what they wanted to do was sort of, in the move to digital, card games became a lot simpler. And sort of his tack was like, no, we should take advantage of the digital format to make them more complicated. Or like more interesting. And so there's just stuff like, hey, you plop down a hero, you can equip them with items that you buy between turns by killing creeps. There's just all this positional of like, if they are in one part of the lane, they will attack certain areas, and if they don't, like there's just where your heroes are in a particular part of the map that matters. There's different hero abilities. There's heroes come with specific cards that they put in your deck just by having them in there. And there's color affinities, so you can't play a card if there's not a hero of the same color. There's just a lot. Like I said, there's a lot to keep track of.
Yeah.
But I came away from it like, this is, as much as in terms of, hey, I want a Dota card game, this feels super like natural, like a supernatural version of a Dota card game.
But as they said, we're not turning Dota 2 in a card game. We made a
Right.
card game and then slapped Dota 2 on it.
Dota 2 was sort of like the easiest thing to map onto what we were already making.
Yeah.
It's just those characters and whatnot.
Right.
Is what
Yeah.
you-
And so they added a bunch of stuff because it's a lot easier to make a card than it is, a new character. So they have like 3 new heroes that they said will eventually come to Dota 2. They're planning to add a lot more lore to the world of Dota through Artifact. And they haven't figured out quite how they're going to do mod stuff, but there's a lot. But sort of the other big takeaway was sort of their economic model for it.
And boy, does he talk about economies a lot.
Right.
And player economies, blah, 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 blah. But the big headline is that this isn't going to be free to play.
Right. So
which
there's
is pretty wild.
I talked to, Gabe's talk, and then I talked to Richard Garfield about it, after that. And sort of they want to make this as much as it is a card game, but with digital cards, so that every card you have will have value. And so basically, the idea is that you'll buy in for a specific price. They haven't said what. You'll get a certain number of cards. And then after that, sort of the biggest way you're going to get cards is to either buy packs from them for like, let's say $5 or whatever, or you go on the Steam Marketplace and buy a specific card that you want, or you can also sell cards that you don't want. So they haven't said if you'd be able to earn cards for free or anything like that. But sort of the big idea is that you will probably have to pay for every card you earn, but that will also allow you to trade cards and keep the value of every specific card in mind as you play, and that's sort of the part that I'm a little cautious about, because I think people have become very accustomed to the idea of like the cards are sort of the cheapest part of the experience of just like, you just get them by leveling up, by playing, like that's not the part that is, a thing you have to worry about. It's just, do you have the legendary cards or whatever? But he said, that they are very, quick to point out, like, we don't want a pay to win model. Sort of they're talking a lot about how we don't want sort of the rare cards to be the best ones. And, sort of in the wake of them announcing Richard Garfield as the main guy, people dug up like this whole manifesto that he wrote a couple of years ago about how a lot of card games and a lot of video games were what he called Skinnerware, where they were just get you to keep playing and sort of waste your time in order to get a resource that isn't super valuable. And sort of his idea, like basically a screed against, microtransactions and pay to win models. So, they have sort of that backing, but of course every company is going to tell you, oh yeah, it's not pay to win.
Right.
When they're making a game that is about buying and selling things after you already have the game. So it's kind of, it's a little hard for me right now to contrast those two statements of like, hey, you're going to pay for every card, which, might not be confirmed, because, I sent them a bunch of follow-up questions and they said, we'll answer them soon. But it's hard to square sort of those two statements of like it's not going to be pay to win versus you have to pay for every card.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you don't just buy like okay, wait a week, people figure out what the best cards are, and then I just go buy each of those cards.
Right, and then like if those are the cards that are most bought, you know, that's going to make them more rare, which might up their prices on the market. So it's they haven't said everything. You know, they said they're going to announce more about the economy soon, but it's
But they have economists on staff. They
yeah,
seem to
like
know what they're doing, right?
Right. So hopefully, like I think Valve has enough cash here, or like cachet, I mean,
And cash.
and sort of Garfield, I think, has proven himself to
Hates
be
Mondays.
right. Yeah, Garfield hates Monday. But it's kind of hard to think about how I think people are just going to be very upset with the idea of this is just a traditional card game when they've been so used to like free to play models. But
It's weird too because like presumably they're going to be able to tweak the cards after the fact too, right?
right, but they said
But if each card
Right.
is a digital item that exists independently, like that's just going to really mess with the economy
Right.
of the game. And like
So-
this
so-
rare card that was worth a lot, like
and then they devalue it.
Yeah,
by-
then
by
they
changing
devalue it, like-
so the thing I talked to them is like with that traditional card model in Magic the Gathering, it is super super rare for them to ever change a card because of something called set rotation, which is if a card is really super good, it'll eventually just fall out of like the rotation of standard play. And then be replaced by a version that is probably weaker. So they're not going to change cards specifically because they seemed very adamant about the idea of there's never a reason to nerf a card unless it's incredibly powerful, and there's not much of a reason to buff a card because you can just make a new one that's better.
JV, give me your Sea of Thieves style prediction. 2 years from now, Artifact.
Ought to be a huge hit.
Like, are we talking on the level of Hearthstone?
kind of like a Sid Meier game.
You
Exactly, like a Sid Meier game. No, I feel like maybe not as big as Hearthstone, but like close to that level.
It's gonna be
just
mo-
because it's Valve.
It's
like,
going to be more than what Heroes of the Storm is compared to Dota 2.
Yes.
To flip it. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
What a weird deal.
Yeah, that is weird
but yeah.
comparison. But
Serial, I'm very glad that you got to go to Valve. And
Yeah,
see
I mean,
inside those holodeck.
yeah, I'm glad they seemed pretty forthright about answering our questions. But
is this game easy to play? Like, is it easy to dive
I
into?
think-
Because Dota's pretty like hard to crack that nut if you're
Yeah.
new. Is this easier to get into?
I think, I mean, there will be a learning curve. I think they are going to have stuff in place to show you the basics of the game. But I think that it is easier to get the hang of than Dota, of just like,
Thank
okay,
God.
you understand the flow. But yeah, we reached out to them, we asked them a bunch of questions, and the only thing they came back to us with was so there was in the wake of sort of that cover, a lot of the coverage that came out about it, there was a Crowman that emerged as part of one of the art pieces that they sent.
Reeves, did you notice that when the Crowman emerged?
Yeah.
the Crowman.
Yeah.
Crowman.
Yeah.
Well, there was a card like art of a guy who's a crow, a man who's a crow.
Oh, Crowman.
Yeah, the Crowman.
Okay.
The one that emerged?
Yeah, the one that emerged.
Okay.
So people were wondering, like, he wasn't on any of the cards, and so like I asked Valve, like, who is he? Is one of like, I'll throw this offhandedly. They're gonna answer my other questions, and this one they'll probably stay shut. But that was the only question they answered. So here's they basically gave
Oh,
me
is the
his-
Crowman emerging?
Yeah.
Or are you just happy to see me?
So
Wow.
here is the.
What do you, Leah's laughing. Do you have like a description of a card?
Yes.
What are you doing here?
So, okay, the name of the Crowman is Ravenhook. He is a black card, which means you have to play. He lets you play black cards from your deck.
Hang on, is this a GI Show exclusive?
That's
Serial?
right. I believe that. I don't think anyone else has this information. He is a 3 attack, 6 health. Which he didn't give me stats for armor, but
sounds really
I imagine
good,
he
though.
doesn't have a. So his ability is called Repossess, and the description reads: condemn a random item equipped by the unit blocking Ravenhook. Get gold equal to the base cost of that item.
Hang on,
So there you go.
base cost
Of that item.
I fucking love the Crowman.
Do you love the arts, or
you
what?
are pro
What do you love
Crowman?
about it?
I just love everything about it. The hooks,
The way he merges.
the damage that Serial recited.
I think character of the year for sure.
top 10
Honestly,
character.
it's one of the top 10.
Crowman.
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 Crowman. Crowman.
Crowman.
Okay, let's get real here. Warhammer Vermintide 2, JV Gwaltney.
Yeah, that game.
They're
is,
Crowmen.
No more Crowman
I'm trying to
time.
think of. No, there are no crowmen in that game.
It really has a lot of wacky creatures, though.
Yeah, for sure. So if you took the scene in Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, where they're all in the mines of Moria and they're trying to get out,
Ooh, yeah.
and you combine that with Left 4 Dead, that's basically what Vermintide is. Like
pretty
that is
good.
that whole game.
That sounds really cool.
It's
Fantastic.
really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was so this game seems like Vermintide 1 came out and it's one of those things where like it didn't make that much of a splash. Turns out
It had a
sold,
cult like community.
Yeah.
Well, I looked it up last night. It sold like 1.6 million on Steam. Where it's like someone's playing this.
That's crazy
All
because
right.
I hadn't even heard of it until the second one was coming out.
Right.
And it's like
I reviewed
all right.
the first one freelance, but like sort of the issues I had with it were that it was just super buggy. You would just have runs end just because someone was randomly clipped off the map, and just it was very buggy. And sort of the other thing that I had against it was sort of it felt like your gear was capping, like difficulty very much affected what you got. So there wasn't a way, like at some point I either have to play on the impossibly hard difficulty or I'm not going to get anything out of continuing to play this game.
So
But
unlike Sea of Thieves, there is some carrot at the end of the stick here.
right,
Yes.
you do level up.
Yeah, you do level up and you get better equipment. You also unlock subclasses. So unlike Left 4 Dead, like every character is different and has different abilities, and it falls squarely into fantasy trope land. So obviously, like the dwarf swings a big axe and sounds like a drunk.
Okay.
very short.
The elf has like a bow and she can snipe people from afar. But within those classes, once you reach like I think it's level 7 and then level 12, you get subclasses. So let's say that elf, you didn't really want to play bow and arrow archery style, but you wanted to like sneak around and like stab people with daggers from the back and do massive damage. You could do that class.
Yeah.
So it's like just taking these tropes and breaking them down to like, okay, what would these characters be special with? And there's a dwarf with the axe. There's the elf with the bow. There's also a witch hunter that has like a weird fencing sword and a shotgun. That's super cool. But basically every level plays, very much like Left 4 Dead. It is shamelessly Left 4 Dead.
Yeah.
Like
Really?
you start on one side and you have to get to the other, and sometimes you accomplish an objective at the end, which can be something as simple as like freeing prisoners from a cage, or fighting a boss, or like solving a puzzle, as a group. But it's literally just from A to Z fighting lots and lots of monsters, and there's an AI director who sends bosses out against you. And it's not as fine. The main problem I had with it is the AI director is not as finely tuned as the one that was in Left 4 Dead. So you'll have a lot of instances where like you'll finish killing like the hardest boss it can send against you, which is the Spawn of Chaos, which is this huge bullet sponge that can heal itself. So it's not even only like, oh, this takes a long time to like kill. It can also like just snack on one of your party members and like heal itself. So you usually go through like your entire party will go through like so many supplies and potions. And sometimes this happened twice. I'd turn a corner, or we'd turn a corner, and there'd be another one of those fuckers there.
Yeah, and there's,
Yeah.
I mean, in the JV and I have played a few rounds, and like one of the rounds we played was just we were playing with someone who hadn't played before, and we had to stress at the end of that run that is an atypical run, because like we immediately ran into a boss, and sort of that boss was like attacking us, and then this other sort of like wizard popped up, and he was like summoning tornadoes, and then this heavily armored guy came in, and so like we were juggling all these different
Forgot
things
about
at
that.
once.
No.
So at one point, someone got like grabbed and thrown across the map by the big guy, and so he got sucked into the tornado and started spinning around, and then he fell, and then the guy with the big axe just like murdered him.
It was basically like a Looney Tunes.
So and
scene.
then
That's
like
awesome.
one of the characters was just one of like the new guy was just level 1, so he was like, okay, don't worry about that. Like you did nothing wrong. The game just
It's not your
completely-
fault, dude.
yeah.
It's not your fault.
The game just decided to screw us over. So like that was just an immediately botched run.
Yeah,
I would have blamed
And
it
that
all
was
on
like,
him. I was like,
that
come
was
on,
like
dude.
2
where we
minutes
at?
in too. That wasn't like halfway through the match. Like we had literally just cleared the starting area,
Right.
and all 4 bosses had like just fell upon us.
I like the idea of the AI director, just this weird nebulous figure just being scared shitless of this one dude. Like, we gotta stop him. We gotta stop him.
And then like you'll have other runs where it just like the opposite of that happens, where you have like one boss, one like tense encounter, and then you just sort of just stroll through the rest of the map.
I think that dynamicism is kind of cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like, it just leads to a lot of like it's just it feels too random versus like the AI director in Left 4 Dead, which always felt like we're gonna give you one X number of intense encounters and then kind of pace it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Whereas this just feels like, all right, well, like sometimes when you lose, there's no sort of like, all right, what should I do better? Like do any better? It's like, nope, the game just decided to screw me over that.
Yeah,
run.
and it's hard not to feel disappointed because like you don't get loot if you lose the match. Like you get experience points, like a tiny sliver, as a consolation prize. But like, you can also before the match you can equip these things called good deeds, which are basically modifiers that make or heroic deeds that make the matches harder. The levels
Okay.
harder, so they send like more enemies after you, or they like cut your health in half. But also during the levels, you can find secret objects called tomes. and grimoires, which will also like, you know, if you carry a tome, you can't carry a health potion at the same time. And if you get those items to the end of the level, you get to
More
upgrade.
experience, and it upgrades to your chest. That you get at the end.
Yeah, so you can add modifiers if you want to, and this creates sort of a interesting chaos during matches because you'll have players who are like, well, I want to get more experience, so let's equip this stuff. But like one of the items straight up like cuts your health down, like the entire like party's health.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so you know there are interesting dynamics that can happen in matches, but it can be frustrating.
Yeah.
So basically, it's Left 4 Dead with like light RPG stuff thrown in and set in like a fantasy, and it's very gory. Like
Yeah, a lot of blood, a lot of rats, a
lot of really like
messiness.
squishy sounds as you like tear into like rats' faces with your hammer.
yeah, like the dismemberment's super detailed. I think my favorite thing, because I'm a gorehound and a disgusting person in general, is when the horde is coming at you, because it does the same thing again Left 4 Dead does with like, oh, you hear a horn, and in the distance like you see this just sea of fur coming at you. Like if you're there as a group and you're cutting through them, all you see is limbs and like black blood and fur just go flying, and it looks like a blender. Like,
That's cool.
Like you're just like this
What do you
force
put
that's
in your
working as
blender?
Look,
kind of
I have
slushies
a
do you
very
drink in there?
sophisticated
Yeah.
diet.
There's just a lot of crowd control. Like the dwarf, one of his things is that he can have a sword and shield, he has like a thing where he can parry and it'll knock a bunch of people down in front of him. So that lets everyone else kind of just start wailing on them. And
Yeah, it
so,
definitely
like,
seems like the first person melee. Like at first, I'm not
Yeah.
really a fantasy guy, and starting it out, it's like, I guess I like the Space Marine Warhammer stuff, but the old timey fantasy stuff I'm not that into. But then playing a little bit last night, I was really struck by like just the amount of different moves you can do.
Right,
and
there's
it's-
different weapons as well.
Yeah, it seems much more interesting just on like a gameplay level than Left 4 Dead. Maybe
Yeah.
not the setting and the AI
Yeah.
director.
It
sense.
feels a lot more deep, like the dwarf again, because that's the class I played. Has like you can change like between a crossbow, which is more like more or less a sniper rifle, and then later on I got like dual pistols that don't require ammo, but they have a heat meter that you have to manage.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of variety in how you want to approach missions, and there's also a lot more missions in this than there were in I think probably Left 4 Dead and Left 4 Dead 2
Yeah, I think
combined.
there's 13 in total.
Yeah,
That's cool.
And so they all act as acts of basically the same story. Like there's like I think 3 stories, and they're split across like 5 acts, so you can basically run through a whole story with
and
your
my 5 acts.
Yeah, but let's be clear here. They're stories in quotation marks. They're mostly just like segmented sequences that have like a kind of small, you know, through
String,
line.
yeah.
but
That's
like
fine.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty much like
story.
Yeah.
it's just like Left 4 Dead down to its bones.
Right,
It's
but-
ridiculous how
But that's a
shameless.
good thing.
Yeah, it's a
Right,
great thing.
it's like I think it is just mindless enough to speak what Left for Sea of Thieves. Basically, this feels like a much better game to like use as a informal lobby to just hang out with your friends because you can just have the story going on in the background. Who cares? And just talk about random crap as you beat rats.
Right.
Do you have any
into
suggestions
submissions.
of random crap for people to talk
What
about?
did we talk
What-
about?
what would you put
It
in
feels
your
like we made a
blender?
lot of inappropriate jokes.
Yeah, we
I
made a
don't-
lot of them.
Yeah, because we were playing with Surreal's brother and like those two.
Oh, that.
Oh,
guy.
that old rat
my
mouth?
gosh.
That's right.
I met him at our 300 party.
He
Talk,
not.
talk about a
my
crow
gosh.
man.
No.
He emerged.
Oh, he emerged.
So 8 out of 10 you gave it?
Yeah, I liked it a lot. My only big issue besides the difficulty balancing stuff is like the game has bots, but they're really bad. Like worse than Left 4 Dead's bots. Like they won't revive you or really save you. You know,
Wow.
I'm sure they're intended to, but they just don't a lot of the time. So I feel like people who buy the game under the illusion that like, oh, this game has bots, so like Left 4 Dead, you know, I can play through those levels without any fuss.
Yeah.
That's not going to be the case here. Like you really should. You can play with randos on the internet and have a good time because the game is like designed in such a way that you basically have to be nice to each other or you won't like be rewarded. You'll just waste a lot of your time. But like just playing with bots,
And you
especially
had
in the
fun
later
doing
levels.
that, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had fun doing that. Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
yeah.
Being nice to people?
I was.
Okay.
Davey can be nice.
Davey's a real sweetheart.
Well, one of the things, like, I will say, like, if you, as you're starting out, don't get discouraged because it starts off pretty brutal. Like, your first few runs you'll probably lose. But I feel like if you think of the difficulties less as like, oh, I want to amp up the amount of, how difficult it is, and more about like from levels 1 to 10 and then 10 through 20, like that's how you should think of the difficulty in this game. It's sort of
Okay.
like a leveling guide
Yeah.
versus actual difficulty.
Gotcha. That's awesome, man. That's the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. No, it's cool that this game came out and there's a good alternative to Left 4 Dead out there. And I think Brian Shea, maybe we'll talk about it next week at GDC. He saw
Yeah, he
some other
just saw
game.
a sci-fi one, right?
Yeah. And his headline was like, "This is like Left 4 Dead but good." Or
Yeah, I
something.
saw that and I was
good?
like, dude, what the hell?
I just reviewed Vermintide 2. That was my tagline. Surreal, We did a podcast at the start of the year breaking down our, I think, top 5 most anticipated games of 2018.
Yeah.
And you blew us all away, hair
That's right.
back, when you said that one of your most anticipated games
We
of
had
the
to fix
year.
the room actually. After
That's
that,
right.
After I mentioned #Wargames.
#Wargames.
Yeah.
This is from the same creator as Her Story.
Right. So Sam Barlow, who also did Silent Hill: Shattered Memories.
Yeah.
He's been doing a lot in the FMV field. He actually has another one coming out soon called Telling Lies. But this is sort of his collaboration with a company called Echo and using the Wargames license to tell sort of like an interactive FMV hacker story. Sort of like Mr. Robot. I think they specifically cited Mr. Robot as something they want to take inspiration from.
Okay.
It's hacktivist.
Yeah, it's hashtag hacktivist. it's hashtivist.
No.
To give you an indication of what this game is like, I started it last night, played about an hour, but for the last
Vomited
for
violently.
the last 30 minutes of that or so, I had fallen asleep, and the game kept playing itself, and I woke up at the end of a chapter like, oh, I guess I beat it. Okay. This is
more or less an interactive movie than really a game.
and I'm fine with that, but even the interactions, it's like just picture-in-picture windows of videos playing,
Right.
and you can like click on which one you want to be slightly more full-frame than the others.
Right,
But you
so-
can still see all of them at all points.
Yeah, so it's like it starts off as I think they're supposed to make you feel like a hacker. That's sort of the thing. It's like here's all these different because all the feed. It's not like they're specific camera angles. It's more like here's everyone's webcam and sort of here's when a phone springs up and like they're scrolling through Twitter to see like the repercussions of what they've done. You'll see like a Twitter page or an email. Things like that'll pop up and sort of the thing that it tells you at the beginning is like this game plays you.
It literally says that repeatedly in the beginning. You're about to get played, son. Whatever you click on, we're going to notice it. It's like,
you're about to get war games.
yeah, it's like, I'll click on the guy that's talking. I don't know what you're getting out
So
of this
basically,
game.
like there's a sort of a timeline that runs through the top of the screen, and depending on what panels you're focusing on, sort of that thing goes up and down, and sort of where you are on that timeline will affect the story. So you'll unlock additional scenes depending on who you're focusing on. So if you focus on a particular character a lot,
Yeah.
you might get an additional scene with them. But sort of like I came into this sort of because I like Sam Barlow. Like Her Story was really cool, and I like Shattered Memories a lot. But this feels very tame by comparison in terms of its ambitions.
Yeah.
Just because and also one of the things I liked about Her Story was that the actual content, the actual story. Was good. Like it was an interesting story that was just told in a very interesting way. Because you could watch, people put together movies of like, here's Her Story told linearly versus like having to put it yourself together, and that's still an interesting story.
It's okay, yeah.
Yeah,
But
like
the point of that is like the gameplay is like interesting, like
Right.
the way you're engaging.
So
with
yeah,
that
the
is kinda
combination of those
interesting.
two things are what made Her
Seems
Story
like it's
cool.
lacking here,
Right.
right?
So like the interactive, I never felt like I was in any way a participant in the story, even after because it
Well, you were
it's-
getting played. That's why.
right. Damn, you're right. So yeah, your interactivity with the story doesn't feel super meaningful, and I've played through it 3 times just to see different endings and stuff. And those you'll get an addition. Like the most I saw was an additional scene and sort of one scene where you're trying to get information on a subject. Will play out differently. One time it was I had to activate the sprinkler system, and another time sort of one of the people in the #Wargames crew. Confronted the target directly and basically got like a receipt. It was like, oh, here's our room number. Let's go.
Is there, would you recommend it for fans of Her Story or for fans of Wargames?
Yeah, not like
Okay.
War
There are
Games.
dozens of us.
War Games does show up. Like that's sort of the tie-in of just like they call themselves #Wargames because they hack a TV station and sort of like they do the super cut of like, oh, corporations are like the war machine. They do this like edited video, and War Games is a part of that, and so everyone talks about them as the War Games crew. And then also
Wait, so they show clips from the movie?
from the
You're
movie.
going to see
War
Matthew
Games.
Roderick?
There's a clip of Matthew
So
Roderick.
is this game set in the same fiction, or they're like
No,
showing
it's just
like this
it's
is
a fiction in which
movie?
the movie War Games exists. That's sort of the tie-in.
Wow.
That's my favorite type of fiction.
And at one point, there's an optional scene where one of the characters plays Gone Home. That's the other like.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of cool, actually.
yeah,
Maybe I need to finish this.
This is
game.
like our world.
But like the thing I want to stress here is like because it's basically a movie. A lot of sort of the impact is tied to the characters and the story, and like that stuff is just it feels like a budget sci-fi show where it's
Yeah.
just the acting isn't great. Some of the deliveries on a lot of lines are just kind of like super overacted. There's a lot of like over expressing. The story is like marginally interesting. I think Kelly, the main character, does a pretty good job most of the time, but a lot of the peripheral characters just don't have the chops to to deliver a lot of those lines.
Do you feel like that's on purpose? Because like all FMV games are like that, or do you think it's more of like just?
I don't think it is trying to
incidental?
be intentionally cheesy in the way that like of old games, but and they have this whole thing where they build it as a season 1.
Oh,
So
really?
it's season 1 of Wargames, but I don't. Yeah, I'm wondering if they're going to continue with this because like I don't see a lot of people talking about it. And I don't think it's great. Like I don't think it tells an interesting story like that we haven't seen before. But
Did you check out Mosaic?
No,
The HBO
Oh
thing?
man, I want to check that out.
Oh, yeah, the Steven
it sounds
Soderbergh
very
thing?
similar to that, where you're just kind of picking like which story you want to play.
is that what I played?
My favorite
Wait,
thing
did you
about
download the right thing?
Oh man, I need to talk.
my
to
favorite
Joe.
thing about that is the main character in that show is like the bully from Home Alone.
Wait, the bully?
bully.
Oh, the Buzz?
Yeah, Buzz.
Oh,
that's
woof.
like yeah. It's like
That's amazing.
oh, I haven't seen him in like 20-something years.
No one has. They said it was a legend.
So I mean, I wonder if this is like Sam Barlow sort of like, oh, I'm gonna use my name to make money like off this franchise, and then Telling Lies is the one that I actually wanted to make. But we'll see. I want to play Telling Lies, but yeah, hashtag Wargames is kind of this kind of a bummer.
Hashtag maybe don't check it out.
Yeah.
I feel like you should be forced to call it hashtag Wargames for the rest of your life, Serial, just because I can hear the venom when you say the hashtag.
I mean, it's like whatever. It
It's
works
whatever.
in the world, but it's whatever.
Hey, speaking of hashtags, do you guys want to meet the winner of the hashtag GI Show Challenge?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we do.
All right. Well, then stay tuned for emails coming up now. And welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm still here. We're still here. We're now joined by a very special guest, and it's not JV Gwaltney. He actually left. But we're joined by Remington Novak. Hello, Remington.
Hi.
You might know him better as Rem, or you might know him better as the winner of the Weirdo Thing hashtag GI Show Challenge.
It's a long hashtag.
Welcome, Remington. So you're one of those heroes that subscribed a bunch of different phones to the GI Show and then took a picture of it and then tweeted it out like a maniac, listening to the podcast every demands. We randomized it in this whole random number generator system. Leo was a witness to it, so he knows it's legit. And you are the random winner. So congratulations, man.
I'm pretty excited about it. Thanks for having me on the show.
So give us the process. You hear on the podcast that idea of the GI Show Challenge. I'd imagine you rewound it 3 times to try and make sense of it, and then you said, "Hey, I think I can do that."
Well, yeah, I thought at first when I heard it, I was like, this is maybe a good opportunity, but I don't think I have that many friends that I can get to pull out their phones at a bar late at night or whatever. And then the long story short of it is I had during our break time, I didn't waste too much of my students' time, but I sat there looking at them in art class, and I was like, this is 16-ish kids who can never keep their smartphones away normally.
Ah.
And this class I have a really good relationship with overall. So on a Friday, I was just sitting there like, hey, you guys want to help me win a competition? And they were like, yeah, let's do it. And so we all broke our phones out and got 12 of them at the same time, which was pretty fun.
Here's a test, though. Did they ever listen to an episode of the podcast?
I have no idea. They're middle schoolers. There's quite a few Overwatch fans in the bunch, though. So.
Oh, that's
there you
cool.
go.
We've talked about the
Maybe
game
they'll
every
watch
once in a while.
or listen to this one.
You start a
listen.
weekly Overwatch segment now.
Well, we can't
dedicated
help
to
it. Those
move it.
art students need it. Do you like being a teacher? Would you recommend it to people, Remington?
Oh, definitely, for sure. It just depends how much you like kids, really, I have to say.
Okay, what if you just hate them? Every time you see a
Then-
child, you want to vomit.
Probably not the career for you.
Okay. All right,
How is
that's
teaching
helpful.
art like a video game?
That's a good question.
That's why I asked it.
Well, you got to perform under more stress. You got to like public. Well, it's nothing like public speaking, so that probably has nothing to do with it. It's actually more like video game reviewing, probably. You have to set up a set of criteria and then sit there and subjectively judge images based on that criteria and kind of come to a numerical score based on that, when really, I think we all agree numbers probably shouldn't be used to judge art in any way.
Yeah, I know, but seriously, like Van Gogh. Let's
What
say
number?
the one
Give
with
him a
the flowers on it. What would you give that? Scale of 1 to 10.
8 out of 10?
8 out of 10.
right,
Wow,
so-
that's like Vermintide 2.
Pretty good. Pretty
Yeah, look forward to our top 300 arts coming out in the next issue.
People are going to be up in arms.
Okay, here's some emails from everybody. First of all, a lot of love for Zaxby's, the fast food chain down in the South. Like, a lot of people wrote in and said, like, I don't know if there's a lot of Epic employees that listen to the podcast or what, but a lot of people are like, next time you go to Epic, come to Zaxby's. I was like, oh, okay, that's nice. Also, Taylor from Greensboro, North Carolina, he writes in and says, hey, Ben and crew, this has been done. That exact thing you keep talking about. There Will Be Brawl was a series several years ago on the internet, which was a gritty murder mystery for the Smash Brothers universe. A couple people wrote in about this. Apparently, there's like this series of fan films called There Will Be Brawl. I skimmed it. It's about exactly as you'd imagine it, but if you're into that idea.
What prompted this?
The like shared Smash Brothers universe film and who would be the big bad. And I guess in this case, it's King Dedede or something.
Is it really?
It was confusing. So, Remington, do you read the magazine by chance?
Yeah, I've actually got a copy right here. Just came yesterday.
That's amazing. That's actually really going to come in handy because we have a couple emails about our top 300 list. I think now that people are actually getting the magazine in their hands.
I also have some comments about your 300 list as well.
Oh, please take the floor, sir.
First one is that it's perfect.
Well, otherwise, I think it's pretty good for the most part. But the one question I really wanted to ask you was, did at any point you guys ever have a conversation about any of the Pikmin games at all? Pikmin 2 maybe specifically?
I brought them up and was immediately dismissed.
Really?
Well, yeah, I'm with you,
were my
Remington.
hero then.
I'm with you,
Sad
Remington.
to see Pikmin 2 left off that list.
I was very sad to have that conversation and get shut down.
What was the rebuttal coming back to you the other way?
I don't know. Andy was like, "Man,
They're too small.
Pikmin, it's fine." I don't know,
How
something
does
like that.
Pikmin 2 not count as the lettuce of your list? I just
Deep cuts.
Good
I love
point.
it.
Good point.
All right, here we go. Eric Garcia says, "Hey, Ben and crew, how many games on that top 300 list have you beaten? A rough estimate is fine. How long would the top 300 list be if it only included games that every single editor at GI had played to completion?" That's a tough one. But
That
this,
every editor? Oh my gosh.
yeah, that
I
would
don't
be
even know.
like 14 games.
Do you think there are 300 games?
I don't even know if there's 14 that we've all played to completion. You think? Because there's always that one random person in the office that's like, "Yeah, I never beat Mario 3."
What do
You're
you-
like, "What? Never beat Mario?"
What
3?
is the one game you think that everyone's finished? It'd probably end up being like Gone Home or like something super short that no one would
I
suspect.
guarantee there's somebody in the office who hasn't
Portal?
played that game.
Portal, that's a
Portal
great
would be
choice.
close,
Remington's
yeah.
smarter than us. Yeah, it probably is Portal. Do you think there's anyone in the office
There's
that
probably
hasn't
somebody
finished?
like Bert's who hasn't played Portal.
Or it sucks.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was not a single game that nobody on that
This is
not
going to drive me
everybody
nuts
on
now.
staff is.
We're going to find out. But anyways,
But
what
it'd
about
be
you
good.
guys? Because I think I like this question from Eric Garcia in San Diego because it was like, man, I'm ballparking like 30 or something. But I went through the entire top 300 list, and it's a harder thing than you think because it's like, wait, no, I just watched my friend beat that game. Or like, wait, no, I got to the end, but I never finished it.
Right.
Or something like Worms Armageddon where I've put like probably 200 hours into that game, but it's like, there's probably some single player missions or something. I don't think I ever even played those, so that doesn't count.
But so he said beat.
Beaten, which I
Finished.
consider like
Completed.
credits rolling.
Right.
So I went through and counted, being very strict. I was surprised 60 of the 300
Really?
I've
That's
actually
pretty good.
beaten.
That's
Yeah. Did you guys do this as well?
I'm into and I forgot. I bet I'm over 200 though. I bet.
Really?
Really?
Yeah. I beat a lot of
200?
games. Yeah.
All right.
I'll go back and count later.
So, like Ben said, it depends on what you count. So I have 129 beaten, but there are 9 exceptions, which I'm not. So, all right, hear me out.
Nine exceptions.
Boo this
No.
man.
This is in addition to the 129.
Okay.
So with these games, it would be 138.
Yeah. Okay.
So Wii Sports, which I've played a lot of, but you can't. Would you count that as a game you can beat?
It's more like mini games.
I mean, if you play every single mini game, you wouldn't say you.
No. Credits roll.
Okay.
Credits roll.
Here's the Storm.
Right. No
Dota,
credits rolling.
Dota 2.
When are you going to beat that? How many hours are you at?
But the
Yeah,
thing
it's
is,
really
he's
long.
put
Does that
like
even
what
have credits? Yeah.
2,000 hours
know.
into Dota
3,000,
2,
yeah.
3,000 hours, and you're saying that doesn't count for like a game.
Eric Garcia is very strict. He says, which have you beaten? I don't know what to do with this
probably-
question.
I played a
other
lot
than
of.
match.
I have played a lot of Pac-Man, but I've never, finished that game. Hearthstone, Team Fortress 2, NBA Jam, Overwatch,
Tricky.
World of Warcraft, and Tetris.
Right. Okay,
So-
those are very good exceptions.
Those are games that I've played a lot of, but I don't know if you can count them
I
as
love it.
having
129 though.
129.
That's pretty
Am I
good.
a fake ass gamer?
Yes.
Oh my god.
You're just a video guy.
Get out of here.
Damn it, that sucks.
Reeves, you have to take his chair.
Wait, Ben?
Sorry. you
Yeah.
gotta
So, just out of curiosity, then, how many times have you beaten the number 1 game on your list?
Oh no.
I never-
I'm gonna have to see myself out. I have never finished Link to the Past.
What?
I tried playing it in college and had a fine time. Repeatedly got stuck and just eventually stopped.
Where'd you get stuck?
You'll never imagine it, Remington. He was in a dungeon of some sorts where
I don't know where my sword is.
I'd be fun. It was the Game Boy Advance version of it. Yeah, it must have been. Yeah, that's when I was playing on my DS. So maybe I could boot up that save and see exactly where I left off.
I mean,
but,
maybe you're just so sucked in by Four Swords, the other part of that game, and you
Couldn't
just couldn't stop playing Four Swords.
yeah, Remington, are you a huge Link to the Past fan or?
I was actually going to say that is the best part about your list, in my opinion, and it is actually probably the game I've beaten more than any other game.
Oh wow!
What's the number
Yeah,
there?
so my number one game?
No, what's the
Well,
number
probably-
of times you've beaten that one?
Oh God, it's got to be at least like 10 or 12, and that's like a longish game, so it
Okay.
takes a while.
Oh,
It's like, well, no, I like back when I was in like middle school, I had like a blue SP, before like all these fancy DSs and stuff
Yeah,
came out.
fancy other colors.
And so, yeah, and that was the one game I had for it. So every vacation, I would just be on that blue SP, just like kind of racing through Link to the Past every single time. Pretty much
Man.
figured out everything about that game for the most part.
and you agree this is the greatest game of all time?
If I could find that fourth jar, yeah, probably. But
Okay,
I could never
alright.
find that fourth stupid jar, no matter how many times I played it.
You know what? Remington reminded me. That's why I stopped. I was like,
fourth
where is
jar?
this effing jar? I've had enough.
Reeves, how many times have you beaten your favorite game?
My favorite game?
Yeah.
What did I put? Link. So this is weird because it's probably only 3. I think I put Ocarina of Time as my number 1, but I think I've only beaten it 3 times.
Yeah.
So that makes me a
That's
favorite
a
gamer,
long-
I'm pretty sure.
Killer 7 I've beaten 3 times, and then I think I'm about to. I mean, we're doing a super replay, so it'll be 4.
Check it out.
But
It's a replay.
I've played like Resident Evil 2 like 7 times, so they're weird enough.
No,
I think
that's
I've played
very good.
Resident Evil 4. I think on every platform except for PS2 and PS3.
I beat pretty much 200 of our top 300 games like 7 times.
I've beat like 400 of them, honestly.
honestly.
Kyle from St. Louis is a real numbers nerd here, which I really love. He says, longtime reader since the Twisted Metal Black cover, issue 93. Good God.
Wow.
First time writing in. He really loved the 300 podcast. Thank you. He did some analysis on the editor top 10 games to see which games were on the most list and had some interesting findings I thought I'd share.
Ooh, I love it when people do this.
Yeah, get nerdy. The way I looked at this was I assigned 10 points for number 1 rank, 9 points number 2, blah, 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 blah. Since Joe casually bent the rules and included the whole Mass Effect trilogy at number 5, I gave him 6 points.
We all gave him a lot of crap for that, though.
Gave him 6 points
Here
for
at the
what?
office,
6
by the
points for the amount of crap that he got from us for doing that
So,
nonsense.
wait, so I'm curious. Like, how many points did Mass Effect 2 get out of that?
I don't know. He just gave him 6 points.
Okay.
So, with that numerical ranking, right, out of just the editor top 10 list, Remington, do you have a guess as to what game would be the number 1?
That's so hard. I do want to say Bioshock's probably up there because that gets just a lot of fanfare, but I don't know about number 1.
Bioshock is number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, according to this
Wow,
weird
so just on the very
calculation.
I'm gonna
long
guess Killer
side.
7 since just like
Oh,
my
Chrono
list
Trigger,
counts for
maybe. Chrono
triple.
Trigger.
So
Remington gets Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger is lower than that. Chrono Trigger is maybe
Damn,
number 16
really?
or something.
many-
Chrono Trigger appeared, it had 28 total points and appeared on only 4 lists. Bioshock appeared on 7 lists. It had 33 points. Also 33 points Super Metroid Breath of the Wild. 33 points.
That's pretty good.
That's pretty good. Number 1 game according to this weird ranking, which is fun.
Link to the Past.
Not
Red
Link to
Dead.
the Past. Not Red Dead. Red Dead's number 2.
Witcher 3.
Ooh.
Not Witcher 3.
Oh wow.
Last of Us.
Not Last of Us.
Mass Effect 2.
Mass Effect 2.
really?
There it is.
Oh,
Ariel
'cause it's
Vasquez.
Joe's points.
Joe's points tipped it over the edge.
Oh,
Yeah,
man.
this is really good. He says
How many points did it get?
65.
Wow.
Yeah. Observations. The top 2 games, Mass Effect 2 and Red Dead, were only on 10 out of the 25 editors' top 10, so definitely a wide variety in taste. While Link to the Past came in 4th in this chart, Mario Brothers 3 is in a 9-way tie for 53rd.
9-way tie.
Interesting.
Very curious considering that Mario 3 is higher than Mario World.
It's very confusing. Also, he said other facts. Kim didn't have a Kingdom Hearts game on her list. What? Kadu, who I think of as one of Game Informer's sports and racing specialists, had only one traditional sports game at number 10, which is Madden 06. Lele, I think I wasn't ready to give a verdict on Monster Hunter World during the Game Club, is now excited. This reader's excited that now she has that at number 4. Dan Tack, I thought I would see at least one RTS game, maybe StarCraft Brood War, but nothing. Kyle, thank you. Number crunching, man.
Wow,
I almost
that's
put
kinda
StarCraft
cool.
on mine for what it's worth.
Pikmin 2 should have been your RTS, just saying.
Yeah, you're probably right, man. Okay, here we have a wonderful email without a name. But it says, hello, Mr. Hansen. It's obvious there's a guest character for Smash who's appeared on most, if not all, Nintendo consoles. That's a slam dunk buzz generator, based on the conversation we had a little while ago. But what character throughout all of Smash, if it was announced, would be the biggest buzz getter? Can you guys guess this? A character that's appeared
It's
on
a video
most...
game character?
No.
Oh, interesting.
but they have appeared on most Nintendo consoles,
Okay.
if not all. I bet they've been on all.
Optimus Prime.
No, this guy's going with Mickey Mouse.
Oh,
Do you think
Yep.
Mickey Mouse would get a lot of buzz?
yeah, I think so.
Would
He
it get more or less buzz if it was the Kingdom Hearts Mickey Mouse?
Ooh,
More.
I think more.
Really?
Yeah.
Just to finally connect to the Kingdom Hearts universe, because then that really opens a hole.
What if there's a
And they-
what if one of the kingdoms in Kingdom Hearts 3 is Smash Brothers?
Oh my god, that'd be amazing.
The Holy Kingdom, the Holy Roman Empire.
It'd be one of those things where like a lot of people would be. I feel like general news outlets would report on that. It's kind of like the death of Superman when you saw that in the news. I feel like, don't you think?
That like CNN would say Mickey Mouse is in Smash Brothers.
I don't know.
By the way, I'm Anderson Cooper. I've lost the will to live.
Oh, this is
No, I
this
mean,
just in.
I think that there's a chance that you see something on CNN that's like Mickey Mouse and Mario are finally in a game together. Or
Yeah,
something
that's
like
what-
something.
Have they never been in a game together?
When have they been in a game together?
I guess
Not Disney.
you're right. I'm just thinking of that one silly Mickey Mouse short, where he jumped and it mirrored Mario and had like the 8-bit section.
Yeah.
That we showed Miyamoto
That we showed
and he was
Miyamoto and he
horrified.
had no idea. It's like,
What is
Cancel this game.
Call
It's
my
over.
lawyers.
Hey, Karen from Ohio writes in. This is a question for you, Remington. Hey, podcast peeps. I'm a music teacher who loves video games, and I have students who also love video games. I want to reward them at the end of the year by playing a fun music game. My problem is I don't know what game to choose. I need a game that has no inappropriate language or gore, clear levels or stopping points, and is not a handheld-only game since the game needs to be projected onto a screen. So,
the
music
whole-
game for kids. What do you think, Remington?
Well, would the whole class like play the game on the projector at the same time kind of deal?
know. Maybe
How
they
young are the
tra-
kids?
It doesn't say.
Oh man. I mean, the only thing I can think of if you wanted to get really fancy with it is if you can like mod Game Boys and stuff to be able to make music on by simply hitting like A or the D-pad and stuff. And
Yeah.
modding Game Boys might be a little hard, but there's got to be something where it could be like, and they probably don't have smartphones either, but something where you can make like a really simple 8-bit soundboard,
There's like
and you can just
Korg.
give that to the kids
Yeah.
to make like their own music out of, and they could make like because it's super easy, not super easy to make good 8-bit music, but if you're just messing around with an 8-bit soundboard, kids would come up with amazing stuff just right off the bat. I guarantee it.
Yeah, for sure. The handheld thing is tricky. Where I'm sure Leo in the booth, there's only one answer you have in mind. You're welcome to jump in at any point with the one obvious
Oh.
answer for this. Oh, hang on, Leo.
No, she could do.
What's that?
She could have each kid pick a sound, and they could all make a big song together. They would each pick their favorite like 8-bit rhythm or noise, and then you'd all just put it together and see what kind of cacophony it made.
You're saying create your own game?
I mean, like, in terms of like playing a game with a whole class, that's like, it seems really difficult because only one person can play at a time, and I feel like you'd want to have them be the ones creating whatever they're doing, is what I imagine, especially
Unless-
as a music teacher.
Unless they're voting on what next card to place. Leo Vader, take to the mic, sir.
You're going to want to pick up Drop Mix. You can get it for 99 cents.
They'll pay you and they'll kiss your neck
At
if
your
you just
local
buy
police
drop mix
station.
at this point.
Feels like Leo's been pitching this for decades.
You can hear his voice. It's raspy.
At your local humane society, please adopt a
Thanks
copy
for
of Drop
calling in.
Mix.
Adopt mix. Okay.
Yeah, my answer would be probably Donkey Konga because it would be fun and novel.
That would be fun.
Also full of covers, and Nintendo probably isn't allowed to let you.
Well, they
do
put
that.
out a Lego Rock Band. That's got to be full
That's
of
true.
songs that are.
That's
for
such a
kids.
hassle to haul all that equipment in.
Yeah.
Clearly, PS4 go for
Bongo's way more
amplitude.
portable.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks for writing in, Karen. Peter from Wake Forest, North Carolina has a simple one. I got a question for you. What is a visual novel? The genre's been around for decades in Japan, but has only become a well-known thing in the West in the past few years, perhaps because the genre is now so new to many of us gaijin. I find a lot of fans and critics like throwing around the term visual novel, but I don't know what the hell it means. Surreal, can you help this guy out?
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple, but I mean, with a lot of video game definitions, it's always vague. But it's basically a game defined mostly by seeing images on a screen and text scrolling, and that being sort of the main mode of the game of just
Right.
you are clicking or pressing through dialogue and characters appear on the screen, whether it's 3D or Phoenix Wright, basically stuff like that.
And if there's like bosomy anime girls, then it's probably a visual novel.
no, then it's definitely
Okay.
Well, even stuff like Phoenix Wright, I feel like that has more gameplay than traditional.
Yeah, it's half adventure game, but like a large part of that game is just you sort of clicking through dialogue and
So Ace
watching.
Attorney, pure visual novel. You're
It's
saying.
basically a comic book.
Yeah,
You should just read comics.
Yeah. Who knows? Ken Pittman from Issaquah, Washington says, hello, crew. Over the last few years, there have been a lot of mods or mini games that turn into full titles of their own, such as Dota or Gwent. But can you name any gameplay modes or temporary campaigns that eventually split off and became their own title? Also, are there any gameplay modes or temporary campaigns you'd like to see split off and become their own game? For example, let Blizzard make a full sports out of Lucio Ball, full sports game. Ubisoft make a dedicated Outbreak game to counter Left 4 Dead and Killing Floor. Anything else?
There was I think my answer for both of those questions is the same, which is Resident Evil's The Mercenaries mode. They made one of those for 3DS and it was terrible. And I think they should try again because that mode was in Resident Evil 4 and 5 was really good.
And you just want like high score competition.
Right. Because I think I like that mode more than a lot of people, but the 3DS game they put out was not good.
What was the deal with that game? Did it have any sort of story or?
I don't think it I think it's just it was more like, hey, here's this loose sort of progression system, and I like the controls on it because it was on 3DS, so it's like of course the controls were going to be terrible for a third-person
the controls
shooter.
for those were never good anyway because they were based off like the old Resident Evil games.
Right,
It was
I don't know.
It was just something else to do when you were done playing Resident Evil.
Right, but
That's why
I
people played
got
the
really into
original.
5s. I know 4. A lot of people really like 4s, but I got really into 5s. It was just like trying to get the highest rank possible, and there were online leaderboards and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But then, yeah, that 3DS game was terrible.
You would think, is it not in 7? Even like DLC or anything for 7, or there's just no mercenaries? That seems
I think
weird.
they added some sort of wave-based mode. I want to say they
There was
added
some
some
DLC
sort of-
and stuff with
Yeah.
Chris. I didn't play that, but I don't know if that contained something
Yeah,
like
but
that.
I don't
Maybe.
think they ever.
What I was thinking of is like the old Ratchet. I can't remember which Ratchet and Clank it was, but there was one that had a mini game that was a side-scrolling platformer with Captain Quark. And I always thought that was really fun.
yeah.
And in particular, I just love the character Captain Quark, and I want to see him get his own game. So,
Yeah.
hey, Insomniac, go for it.
Hey, listen up.
You have my
buckos.
permission.
A recent example would probably be Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker.
Oh yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's
That's
a
a
good
great
point.
one. I'm surprised that Ubisoft hasn't spun out Kung Foot from Rayman Legends, which is like in Rayman Legends, there's this little soccer game, and it's so much fun. At least I absolutely loved it. Maybe I just think that the gameplay holds up well in overall Rayman games, modern Rayman games. But like if they just made that a $5 standalone thing on Steam or especially on Switch, now that Rayman Legends is coming, I feel like people would
Yeah.
be interested in just that pure soccer mode.
What if they made a mode that was based on, was it Wheelman or what's the, oh my gosh. what's the-
Driver?
Driver, that's what it is. Driver San Francisco.
Yeah.
What's that mode you love?
Oh, split screen tag mode?
Yeah, they should just make a game based on that. Why isn't an indie developer made a game like that?
We're releasing a game called Split Screen Tag Mode.
Ben Hansen's split screen tag mode.
Player Ben Hansen's. All right. Hello, Game Informer crew. I was wondering if you can badly describe. This is a weird one, Remington. Try and wrap your mind around this. I was wondering if you can badly describe one of your favorite games and have other people try and guess what it is.
Ooh.
All right. So, preferably not one that you've already mentioned, right? Because I'll give it away. But Remington, I'll put you first at bat for this. Just
What?
describe a game that you love in the worst way possible, and then we'll try and guess what you're talking about.
Okay, games I love that I got.
Don't start with the game title.
Yeah, that's usually a bad way to go about it. Anybody? Let's see.
Oh, he's petting his cat right now. for
Oh,
audio
I was
listeners.
wondering what that was.
Yeah, no, he's a sweet boy. Let's see. I don't know, why do you got to put me up first for this? Just right off the top of my head.
Hey, look, you wanted to participate in the GI Show Challenge. I never signed you up for that.
True. Yes, yeah, I kind of signed up for this, didn't I? Let's go.
Try Metal Gear.
Post-apocalyptic,
Ooh.
Last of Us.
yet stunning scenery. No, it
Near.
needs to be a
Left 4
bad
Dead.
description. No, post-apocalyptic, where you use where fruit has somehow become motorcycle fuel.
Breath of the Wild.
There you go.
Breath of
I
the Wild.
really have-
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Pretty good. Reeves, you got a terrible description for us? Like, really botch
Man,
it.
I have
Really
not thought
blow
of
it.
this.
Set a high bar. You should be fine.
Man rides dragon and flies around. Creatures.
Panzer Dragoon
Yeah.
Crab.
That's probably too easy because of the dragon, right?
I think they gave it away. What about, okay, you guys got to check out this game. It's seriously one of my favorite games ever. It's, like, this is where the heart of the question is for me, is like the friend that's terrible describing games, where it's like,
Yeah.
it's like, do you like Pilot Wings? Do you guys remember Pilot
Oh,
Wings?
yeah, I love Pilot Wings.
It's like that. It's like that, right? It's like that, except then like, eventually it kind of transitions, and it becomes like, oh God, what's it's kind of like Gears of War. It's like if you mash those two together.
What? You're describing this poorly.
No, come on, man. You gotta try it out. You
Wings.
gotta try.
Oh,
Where
wait.
it's like multiplayer.
Star Fox?
No, but it's like a multiplayer Gears of War thing. But instead of like the Horde in Gears of War,
Okay.
it's
yeah.
like other people.
Colony Wars.
Do you remember Wind Waker?
XCOM.
Do you remember Wind
Yeah.
Waker?
Yeah, yeah.
Remember like how everything was set like on those one types of like land masses? Mm-hmm. Remember it was like that game was
No.
based around like what were they again?
Islands.
Yeah. That's a big part of the game.
Okay,
Where it's
Island.
just like one of those.
Age of Mythology.
Pilot Wings. Gears
It like
of War.
starts out kind of like Pilot Wings, like the one bonus mode. in
Star Fox?
Oh yeah. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. That's what I'm thinking of. Yeah. You got to check it out.
Mine would probably be War is Hell, but it's also for kids.
Wonderful 101.
No.
Labo.
No.
Metal Gear Solid 4.
No.
Near.
No.
War is Hell, but it's also for kids.
Yeah.
Hell is for children.
Is it Advanced Wars?
Yes.
Oh, good.
What? There
Good.
you go.
Good job, everybody.
Yeah, we did it.
Holy cow. So this is an odd one.
That's a fun game. You can play that in the car.
That is fun. Mike H. from Burlington, Vermont has an interesting
Hey,
thing.
that's where I go to school.
Really?
Well, not Burlington,
Is he
but
one of your students?
Montpelier. It's pretty close.
Oh, do you want to give a local shout out that only people from Montpelier would recognize?
I don't know, just like shout out to all the great faculty and staff at the Vermont College of Fine Arts in Montpelier, Vermont.
There we go. La-di-da.
What's a
Pick
local
two.
restaurant nobody else would know about, though?
Oh, I mean, Charlie O's is like the dive bar.
Charlie
I love
O's?
Charlie O's.
Don't get
Oh.
me started. It's kind of like a dive bar. Okay.
Have you had the fries?
So this person says, hello, crew. It just occurred to me, how come I haven't heard anyone talk about the fact that Fortnite went from being a showcase for Unreal Engine 4 into a long game development process, a game some people never thought would come out, to a release of relatively minimal fanfare, to being arguably the biggest game in the world? I know it's because of the free Battle Royale version, but it's interesting how they're able to capitalize on that. No real question, just looking for commentary.
Can I jump in here?
Please, Remington.
Okay. So I never thought I would grow up to, because everybody had phones in their classes like back in the day. I had a little Kia type pad thing. I'd play Snake on it.
Yeah.
I literally caught one of my students playing Fortnite on their smartphone near the end of class, and I didn't even know what to think about it.
Because you're just
We've reached that
amazed?
point. Well, I was like, how is Fortnite even on like an iPhone? And how is this person even like sneaking this or getting this past me at like the end of class?
Are you sure somebody
Like the
wasn't
one-
secretly filming a commercial for Fortnite? Because that sounds like an
Just,
ideal
like, A bunch
scenario.
of middle school art students playing in the middle of class when they're not supposed to,
Yeah.
probably. But like, I can't believe what these kids can just play in the middle of class now. And
It's just absurd. And like the idea that PUBG is now available on mobile, I played it a little bit. There's an interesting controversy where people are like, wait a minute, I'm playing against bots. And they're like, have this easing in. It seems like they're easing players into the difficulty of PUBG by slowly weaning out the number of bots in your matches.
That's weird.
But it's so bizarre because I was playing it and I was trying to hit somebody with a car. At least I thought it was somebody. And I was like, why are they moving so weird? It's like, well, I guess it's just mobile controls. No one knows what they're doing. They're all running around in circles. But now I just realized it's just a dumb bot. And I need to feel proud of myself for shooting them.
How many times do you think the bots have won in the mobile version?
Oh my God. When it gets down to bot on bot?
Yeah. Oh, I love
they
bot.
probably just cancel the games at that point. They wouldn't like waste the bandwidth just running a game.
I
with
know,
bots,
Remington,
right?
but what if they do, man?
But come on.
That's the future esport is like battle bots with PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds where there's
on,
different
hang on.
companies that try to program their own AI to play PUBG.
Slow down, I can't.
Oh, wait. Are you talking about Rocket League?
Exactly.
Isn't it weird that they would like backdoor in bots in PUBG in a quiet way in this mobile version without letting it be known
Well-
to anybody so everybody just feels good about themselves for eating a chicken dinner out of the gate?
Yeah,
Well, I mean, haven't you guys ever like just set up like 4 random bots on like Smash Bros and then bet on who's gonna win?
Absolutely.
I've done that before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With 8
Yeah, like
even.
I feel like that's pretty classic. It's a lot of fun too.
So
Yeah,
that's
assuming people,
this is
like,
the developer version of that? Is that what you're saying? The
I think
developers
so.
are like, hey, let's see who wins.
This is going to be real weird when
Hey,
they make all the
Jerry.
bots look like themselves.
Hey,
But
remember when we made those bots for this game? Did you push that live? You didn't push that live, did you?
come on, Jerry, be cool, dude.
Jerry, come on.
But it's interesting that we pivoted to PUBG because Mike is wondering about Fortnite specifically. Sorry for doing that. Yeah, every once in a while you have to sit back and just look at the, what would you call it, avalanche of Fortnite popularity and just sit in amazement, especially being on that cover story back in 2014. It's just, no one could have predicted it. Like, they were definitely emphasizing that they wanted to stay loose and like, we'll see where the community takes it once it launches. no one could have foreseen that
no.
the community would take it in this very specific direction, and that then that direction would explode on a level that is nearing, if not surpassing, Pokemon Go at this point.
It's ridiculous. Like, how much? Do you think there's someone at Epic who's like the I did this on a whim guy who's just like insanely rich? Like, do you think that Epic could pinpoint it to like, what if we just made a battle royale game? If like the one person who first suggested that, and as the person who saved the company, is now sort of their new honorary president, basically.
Yeah, he just wears a T-shirt. It was my idea to rip off that other game. That's right. In a very cool way. I'm not just in Fortnite. It is absolutely amazing, and it's fun to go back. Like I've been going back and watching our videos from that cover story trip. Like, I wonder if we could re-promote any of these and people would be interested in them. Then one of the lead animator on Fortnite, he was at Valve for many years. And he's also one of the animators on Team Fortress 2 and stuff. And so I was watching the interview with him, and it was fun to go back and watch because he was talking about how influential the animations for Dante were in the new DMC. In like the animations for Fortnite. It's just bizarre thinking about the roots of that game and how it eventually blew out. But I don't understand it. It's absolutely amazing how something can grab hold of the world in such a huge way.
I'm trying to think of another game that's ever done this, like released quietly and then 6 months later somehow it's like the biggest thing in the world. Like, I don't think there's a game that's ever done that before, right?
I mean, when League launched, Surreal...
I don't think it was as big as I don't think it launched as sort of like the widespread popularity that it had at some point. I'm not sure when that turn happened.
But its core like nuts were there.
Excuse me? It's
Did
core
Minecraft get
nuts.
that
No, I'm
big
sorry,
when it
the
first
core,
started?
it was
like-
born with those nuts. Yeah.
Core
Sorry.
testicles.
Remington asked about Minecraft. That's a good one. That definitely had like a groundswell and a passion, but in terms of like breaking through, especially that younger audience where I feel like it really took off, that probably didn't happen until a little bit after launch. I don't know when. Maybe it was even the mobile version of that, which is
Like,
crazy.
I didn't see the mobiles or arcade or the console versions for like a while.
Yeah, it is just crazy too, thinking about how amazing it is that Epic and Bluehole is able to get these amazing games onto mobile so quickly. Normally, there's such a long delay before the mobile version of the world's most popular game comes out, and it's like that turnaround on Fortnite is absurd.
Is that just because phones are so powerful these days? Is that what it is, or
I think the engine
phones.
technology also has a lot to do with it. They've just like, hey, if we made there's the mobile version of the same engine like Unity and I think Unreal both have those, so I can't.
it's just like hitting a switch?
yeah,
I
basically
doubt that,
optimize it.
Hey,
putting
Jerry,
things on screen.
remember that mobile
optimizing-
switch we installed in Fortnite? You didn't hit that, did you?
I think it's about time for Fortnite to hit that switch, if you know what I mean. Alex from
Were you Chance the
Louisville,
Rapper?
Kentucky. Louisville, Kentucky, who he says is God's country. A lot of people are adding this on their own. I don't know how I feel about it. He says, whenever I go to a gas station, I always park near a gas pump. I don't always get gas, though. Sometimes I just go in and buy a drink, and I hate backing out of parking spots, so I always park near a pump, even when the gas station is busy with people who are trying to get gas. Am I a bad person? Yes!
Yes.
Yeah, you fucking suck, dude.
Well, hold on. Is it bad if you do that and there's not people waiting for gas?
You never know if people are going to pull in.
But if like there's like 8 spots for cars and only 2 of them are full, is that a big deal?
I think it's poor form. Just because you don't like backing out of parking spots? Come on,
Like
man.
if there's no one else, and then you can do it because you'll get away with it, but that doesn't make it it doesn't make it a good idea. Like
Alex from Louisville, Kentucky, he's asking, is there proper gas station etiquette that I'm disregarding? Yes. He asked, do you guys do this? No, we're not Alex. Frankly, never listen to this podcast again.
we are stripping the title God's country from wherever you live.
Get the hell out of here, Louisville, Kentucky. The cursed land from here on out. Thank you for listening, Alex. We love you. Here's an interesting question. Chris from Houston says, hello, crew. Talking is hard. He says, while rewatching Parks and Recreation, I realized that Ben Wyatt is the first instance I've come across of a nerd character that actually feels like a real person and isn't defined by his nerd interests. Instead, they're simply part of his character, but he's also portrayed as intelligent, successful, and even Mary's lead character. Can you think of any other nerd character in a TV show or movie written this well? Is Ben Wyatt the greatest fictional nerd of all time? P.S. If anyone suggests the Big Bang Theory characters, please fire them. Yep, we're way ahead of you, man.
We've already fired everybody.
It's a good question. The nerd character where the nerd thing is not just played for laughs and over the top. Basically the opposite Big Bang Theory in every way. I'm trying to think of other good examples. The one I can think
it's
of...
not just TV, right?
No, or movies, yeah.
I think fictional nerd character.
I think... And they play it for laughs a lot, but they're not a negative character. But like I think Liz Lemon from 30 Rock is also a pretty big dork.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was going to bring up, maybe this doesn't work anymore, Tony Stark. He's a nerd. right? But he's a cool nerd.
Like Donatello, is that what you're saying?
Or well, he's a big dork, but
I hate him.
oh my gosh.
I mean,
at least look at him.
He likes machines.
Or Peter Parker or something. He's a cool character, but he's basically a dork, right?
there's a
Yeah.
time that, background notwithstanding, when Frank Underwood played Monument
Yeah.
Valley.
I was just thinking that same thing, actually.
So,
Although
you're
that
going
seemed
on a
like
limb.
really bad product placement instead, but
Yeah.
still all the same.
Serial, you're confidently proclaiming into a microphone that the greatest character is Kevin
No,
Spacey?
I'm saying that is an example.
Oh, I see. That's
But
about.
in terms of the greatest, I think Ben Wyatt is the one that comes to mind first. I
Yeah.
think.
But Peter Parker is probably the obvious example
Yeah.
that we're not thinking of.
Yeah, he's
And
more
he has-
defined by the whole swinging around thing.
And he has dignity in his nerdity.
Yeah, that's right. Big muscles.
Yeah, what else do you want
Yeah,
from
what else
nerds?
do you want from a dork?
Good stuff. Okay, Tom from Buenos Aires. That's in Argentina, Reeves.
Oh.
He says, hey.
God's country.
That's
I like
right.
that.
With the rise of work sim games like Job Simulator, Spin Tires, Euro Truck Sim, Passport Out. I've never heard of that. I don't know if you guys have. And many types of games like that. What job or menial task would you guys like to see turned into a game? Remington, teaching art? Is that... We already learned that it's exactly like reviewing games.
Yeah.
You should make that game.
Oh, door-to-door salesman would be a good one.
Oh, that's good. It's a little
is good.
costume
Having to,
questy,
like-
right? Where you're going into the doors again and again and again.
Oh, yeah,
You
the
win like
everyone is a random
10%
battle.
of the
That's
time,
good.
you lose the other 90%.
And when you lose, it's game over. You don't get to go to the next house.
Oh, I don't know. You just lose a little bit more of your little more of your soul each time. Kind of like Dark Souls, where every time it just gets a little harder as the longer you play.
So it's like an emotional roguelike where at the end of the day, you're just like tied.
This is a game that slowly teaches you to be like content with like minimal success.
Honestly, though, I'm kind of into that where like every door is just like a Mass Effect dialogue tree. It's like,
Yeah,
all right, try and
basically.
win this situation, bucko. Try and sell your
But
knives
it's-
now.
Yeah.
But then every time you open the door,
but
the
when you do
Pokemon takes
win, I
place.
bet it's going to feel amazing. Just like when you win in Dark Souls, it feels much better because you're getting killed like the rest of the game.
Right. Yeah, I want to get boring. I recently I was in Duluth and I went on a tour of the Glen Sheen Mansion with my wonderful girlfriend. It was a super cool time, and wandered around that. And just like the tour guide process is really fascinating to me because I was also just at Universal Studios.
Oh.
And like the tour, like the tram ride at Universal Studios, you think it'd be fun but a little bit dry. Like they nail it. That script is finely tuned. It's
Yeah.
funny. It's amazing. And then went on a tour of this mansion up in Duluth, and it's like it was fine.
Yeah.
It was interesting enough, but it's like, man, they could insert so many good jokes in here. They could mess with people. They could have so much more fun. And so I think that idea of like having a game where it's a sim all about giving tours, but then also trying to restore an old house to like its original early 1900s state.
That's pretty good.
That's the most boring thing I would like to turn into a game.
Weirdly enough, I was just thinking like a ride operator at a theme park would be kind
Yeah.
of interesting. Like, because there's so many like theme park games, but what if you like focus in on just like a single ride operator and what that job is like? Could be like Papers, Please or something, or I don't know what the gameplay would exactly involve, but could
Yeah.
be kind of fun.
Just like kind of isn't that basically just Roller Coaster Tycoon, but like you can only control one game?
yeah, but you
Yeah.
only focus in on specifically the ride. You wouldn't even know what the ride was.
We'll call it worse roller coaster tycoon.
Right.
Yeah. I like that idea of like instead of trying to compare like dates of birth and different countries of origin and stuff with Papers, Please, it's just one metric and it's just are you tall enough to ride the ride? Stamped.
I have my father-in-law is a very short man, and
Oh my God,
no,
I'm sorry.
yeah. I don't know where I was going with this. Oh, wait, he was in. He went to Disney once with his family, and you know the Haunted Mansion ride. It's all
it.
spooky.
Yeah.
The guys who run it are all dressed up, and they look like undertakers basically. And the family went forward, and he was like about to go forward, and he was like, the guy stopped him, and my father-in-law was, "Oh, I'm actually with them," and the ride operator was like, "For now." And let him through. You're like, oh my gosh, it's amazing.
I could see a game. Maybe there already is one, but like based around event planning of just like having to coordinate everyone, like get a DJ and talk to everyone about like here's where everyone's like figuring out seating arrangements based on like this person hates this person or like things like that. For
Yeah, there's probably something there.
What I was thinking about this recently. DJs, let's just say in the United States alone, DJs, give me the percentage, all DJs across the United States, percentage of times
95.
percentage of the time that the crowd is into it versus the DJ is just awkwardly there pretending to look busy and just checking their phone.
All DJs.
All DJs, all times. Let's say in like the last year, percentage of DJing in the United States. I'm going with like.
You're talking about the DJ themselves or like the number of people in the crowd?
I'm saying people into a DJ versus
Okay.
quietly ignoring a DJ.
Okay.
We got to be at 90-10.
Oh, people not into it?
90% of the time, DJs are just checking their phones,
Oh.
just waiting for the
I
time
was-
to go by.
I'd probably say like 15, 20.
Man, I was going to go
Wow. Okay.
a little better than that, I guess. I was going to say 40% of the time people were into it.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just because you get so excited every time you see a DJ.
I'm
feel
really
like-
ranking that number way up. Yeah, I
feel
every
like
time I hear a DJ or see a DJ or pretend to be a DJ
Or watch Full House.
Well, like I feel like
Or
the baseline experience,
see
like
a motorcycle.
I think you can lump in sort of those like, everyone's like so happy with the DJ or whatever, and just like the one guy who's like, hey, can you play this song? I got it. I have a specific purpose. I want you to play the song. And the DJ's like, yeah, all right. And then that happens. I feel like that is I think that those experiences count. If someone like you asked to play a song and the DJ plays the song eventually, I think that counts.
that counts. Certainly. Have you done that a lot in your life? Gone up
No.
and whispered Wu-Tang Clan, please?
That's right.
All right. What's your
Make mine Wu-Tang.
What's your go-to Wu-Tang Clan? Like if you had to ask a DJ to play one Wu-Tang song, what would it be?
I think Bring the Ruckus just because it'd be funny.
Okay, there we go. Luke from St. Paul says, hey, everybody, what video game industry story would you like to see made into a movie like Social Network or Big Short? Personally, I want to see the console wars. Melodrama about Microsoft starting as new guys in 2001 while Sony is at the top with their PlayStation 2. This movie would follow Microsoft as they carve out nearly half the market throughout the years. The after credits scene is the 2013 E3 press conference. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so the dramatized
Yeah.
film version.
Aren't they already making a movie based around like the Sega Nintendo console wars?
Well, they were talking about it with Seth Rogen. I don't know what the status of that
I think
is.
they turned it into an episode of Preacher instead. They just kind of panicked. We got to use this story. I mean, they did make a dramatic version of like GTA being brought to court with Daniel Radcliffe playing like Jack Thompson or one of the Hauser brothers or
Yeah.
something. It was for the BBC. It seems like it's a very interesting idea, but no one's ever watched it.
I was gonna mention that one because I totally forgot they had made that
Yeah.
BBC version.
Yeah.
Like I don't know if it's any good or not.
The obvious one is Kojima's firing.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
we
that's a
talked
good
about it a
one.
lot on the podcast. I think that'd be fascinating.
Just a 10-minute scene of like, you guys are gonna get randomized emails every week. But I think anything like Hanson, I think you just watched this recently, the mini documentary on Acumen.
What?
One of the artists at Capcom.
Oh, yeah.
So I think anything like basically the Yakuza 0 equivalent of just like anything in like mid to late 80s in Japan with like Capcom.
Oh, hang on. We got a call from Remington Novak. Do you
somebody's
wanna answer?
calling us.
This
This
is
doesn't normally happen.
As Wise Man once said, he has some splaining to do. Remington, you're calling into the Game Informer show.
Hey guys, how's it going? I'm back again.
What
Oh yeah,
happened,
you have
man?
a question, caller?
Sorry.
What's
I
going
accidentally
on?
went for the voice call instead of video.
Oh, is
I
that
think
right?
You can update it
Yeah.
after that.
There we go.
Oh, okay, perfect. All right,
You did
welcome
it.
back. I don't know if you heard the question here, Remington, but it's about what a real event from the game industry would you want dramatized into a movie. There's also this one little detail that I'm in love with. Hang on, Remington is flickering.
It went back to
through
voice.
different cameras.
Sorry.
Anyways, but there's one little story that I forgot to talk to Ron Gilbert about when he was on the podcast. Reed, stop laughing. But he said that he had a meeting. Ron Gilbert from Monkey Island fame and all that. He had a meeting with Steve Jobs where Steve Jobs argued that you can't tell stories in games, and Ron Gilbert tried to walk him back from that stance for like half an hour. And so I'd love just a short little reenactment of those two
Just
people
that scene?
talking to each other.
It's like
yeah.
2 men in a room.
Yeah.
One of those movies.
Yeah, 1.5 angry men. I think it's called.
Ron Gilbert was half angry.
Yeah. He's grumpy.
That's pretty good. I think just take Masters of Doom, the book, and turn that into a movie would be good.
yeah.
Kind of the rise of
You already have a
Doom and
script.
id.
Yeah, good stuff. Taylor from Greensboro, North Carolina says, hello, crew. The other day I watched a video called Jeff Goldblum Cooks with Jonathan Gold, which is as hilarious and Goldbloomy as it gets. I was impressed by how Gold kept his composure in situations where I wouldn't have been able to. Anyway, if you could have any celebrity be on an episode of the podcast, who would you choose and why? Remington, take it away. Who would be the number one choice?
I don't know. Robert Downey Jr. I think would actually be pretty good.
Oh, that's an interesting
Oh,
choice.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God, imagine how much pressure that guy feels to be witty and charming and fun
All the time.
All the
my
time.
gosh. Same with like Chris Pratt, probably, right?
Yeah.
Also, wait, I can't believe I'm forgetting this, but who also does play Ben Wyatt on Parks and Rec? He'd be another good option.
Adam Scott. Yeah, there we
yeah,
go.
Adam Scott. He'd be pretty good.
That's true. Yeah, Chris Pratt feels pressure to be charming and witty and likable, except when he's filming Jurassic World.
Yeah,
I believe.
I was about to make the same joke. Yeah.
It's just 2 hours that lined up in a very odd way. It's a good question. Do you get nervous around celebrities, Reeves?
No, not really.
Really?
No, not usually. I think I was a little nervous when I met Stan Lee or something.
Or something.
If you call him a celebrity.
I sometimes get nervous. I think in the lead up to it. I think, but once I see the person for it, like they just become this is a
Right.
human being just like anybody else. And I think that like some of it. I'm not saying I'm like completely calm during those
Yeah.
interviews, but I feel like a lot of sort of the anticipation dissipates when you actually see the person. It's like, oh,
For
they're
sure.
standing right
They're
there.
because you're surrounded by nervous PR people and handlers,
Right.
then it's like,
Right.
okay, this is going to be fun.
They're like, my eyes are up here, sir.
Exactly.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Tyson.
Taylor, completely unrelated in every way. Next week, Dan Tack and I can talk about going to a Jurassic World event where we got to play Jurassic World Evolution. So please look forward to that. There might be a surprise or two in there.
Speaking
for
of
you.
which, I think Dan Tack would probably be the celebrity I'd like to see on the podcast.
Don't tell you too bad. Let's see. Derek Scene from Duluth, Minnesota, God's Country, says, do you think the Switch Pokemon title will have 2 versions?
Hold on, did he say God's Country that time?
No. Will the Switch Pokemon game have 2 versions?
I think.
Yes.
I would wager yes.
Wait, what do
Yeah.
you mean? Why would it have 2 versions?
Are you familiar? So,
You know,
thank you so much, Remington. But Pokemon for mini.
Oh,
Moon.
sorry. I was thinking Smash Brothers.
Silver, red, and blue.
Although that would be the biggest screw you move. You have 2 versions of Smash Brothers with like 5 characters
They
on each
could
version.
absolutely get away
they
with
could
that.
totally do that,
People
by
would
the way.
just hold their nose and swallow it and buy it, whatever you do to games.
One of them's called the Miyamoto's Gotcha Edition because you're gonna buy both.
I was like,
Yeah.
what a brilliant move.
Oh, Master Hand, Crazy Hand editions. There you go.
There you go.
That's good stuff. Forrest from Lawrence writes in and says, hey, crew, if you could watch what's going on in any studio currently making games for 1 month, which studio would you choose? Would you pick a studio that's stable or one that seems to be in chaos?
I just picked Valve, honestly.
You were just there.
But to hear the secret meetings that Valve has, like,
Once you leave and Gabe just goes on about the economies surrounding the Vasquez family
right?
or whatever the hell
Well,
they
once
talk
you
about.
leave and all the press leaves, and immediately goes, well, now about Half-Life 3. I wonder if how often that company mentions that game.
I bet it's like a good kitchen joke.
Yeah.
Of like, well, time to get back to working on Half-Life 3. And then they have high
But
five.
even removed from that, I just seeing what the top secret stuff they have, because I imagine there's stuff that never came to light that they just kind of went full circle on. I'm just like,
What's
we made this entire project and then never saw.
What's the
it.
craziest thing they have there that nobody knows about? Is it like half of Half-Life 3?
I'm
like
sure.
I'm sure they
versions of
have
the game?
prototype
Yeah.
versions of Half-Life 3.
Or like some prototype of some other controller or some like tickle me
A fully
robot?
human
I don't
android.
know. Yeah.
Remington, are you a Valve guy?
Yeah, for sure. I think they might be working on Pokémon, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh.
I don't know if you heard, but it's a hot scoop.
That's
Hot
a good
scoop.
one.
They're so jealous
Yeah, they're
of
gonna
Pokemon.
capitalize on Pokemon franchise.
I'd love to be a fly on the wall of Nintendo's offices. Just
Yeah.
like, because I'm,
Do flies speak Japanese? I've been meaning to
yes.
ask this.
And then I'd curse myself for picking a Japanese company since I don't know Japanese.
Well, you have to record it and then send the audio to someone else. To,
Hire somebody to translate it for me.
The Switch is very convoluted.
What would you follow if you could fly to any like development team within Nintendo or any devs? Like where would you land your little fly?
So I'd have to pick one team within.
I don't know. Where
Nintendo's-
would you first place you would go to?
The Zelda team to see the early prototypes of whatever they're working on next would be cool.
Yeah, I bet they're all just like cartoon anime exhausted, just like sweat pouring down their faces still, kind of
Yeah.
like stink lines because that project just destroyed them because I'm sure it
Yeah,
was very hard to
well,
pull off.
Yeah, I'm sure. But the game came out like about a year ago now, and I'm sure they were working on DLC since then. But that last DLC now came out 4 months ago.
Yeah.
So they're probably like ramping into the early stages of
right.
whatever's next.
They're around this point in the meeting where it's like, Link has to talk. And that I have said this several times. And Miyamoto's like,
Shaking his head no.
get him out
Now,
of here.
But also, like, I don't know if they're working on it too, but like, I don't know if they're making another 2D Zelda. Like that's probably
They seemed open to
coming.
it when
like,
we talked to them about
yeah,
it.
so like maybe that's like almost done.
I could see that.
Yeah.
That's where my money is. Reeves, I've been meaning to ask you this. Can you do your impersonation of a fly that witnesses the prototyping of the next Zelda and then flies all the way back to the Game Informer office, but you can't transform back into a human, and you're trying to communicate in a very The Fly-like sense, speaking of Goldblum, about what you've seen? What's that? What is that fly? It's buzzing around. Wait,
Miyamoto.
what's that? What's it trying to say? It's trying to speak English.
Kermit the Frog.
It knows something about a secret Kermit the Frog project.
Kermit the Frog's in Smash Brothers.
Maybe it's at Valve. I don't know. If you could just give us one more hint. Oh no, JB, why'd you step on the? That's the kind of fun we have here, Remington. I hope you liked it. For me, I want to see Rockstar locking down Red Dead. I want to see them ironing the bugs out of Red Dead 2, which is in theory what they're up to now, and just the like crazy crunch hours that they're probably getting around to.
I'd like to see all the times Red Dead for PC was brought up and they said no. And everyone laughing, just like, hey, how about we put Red Dead Redemption on PC? Everyone the room just erupts with laughter. Yeah. And then they all flip me the finger.
They look at the fly.
The fly on the wall. Take that fly.
Maybe it's paranoia, but they often flip up flies around the studio just in case there's a journalist embodied in one.
Just in case some magical like journalist transformed into a fly.
I think all journalism's magic. Frankly,
the magic is in here.
Talk about a gathering of magic right here.
Hey, before you move on from like that Red Dead 2, you guys really like that and talk about it a lot, but I'm surprised we haven't ever seen like a Westworld game of any sort, kind of mixing that sci-fi western together. I think that worked pretty well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on.
I like the idea.
Yeah, I mean, licensed games maybe you'd have to ramp up after Westworld took off, so maybe we'll see something. Maybe like Telltale would do something. Maybe.
Oh man, it sounds familiar though. I have like vague pictures of
Sci-fi
like, some, like,
western.
Right?
robot cowboy type thing.
Are you
Well,
thinking?
Borderlands is what I'm thinking, kind of.
Well, that's an interesting comparison. Are you thinking of SteamWorld Dig? Reeves?
Oh, you know what? Maybe.
Okay, that's pretty robot western.
Yeah.
That's basically already
that's
the game.
basically what you want, Remington.
Yeah. Charles Gordon from Lynchburg, Virginia. Change the name. He says, I recently moved and dusted off my Sega Dreamcast after many years of inactivity to play some Power Stone. The startup logo with the red dot following the spiral and the cool whooshing sound brought back a huge rush of nostalgia. I was wondering what some of your favorite system startup logos jingles are. I also love PS2, GameCube, and the little ding of the Game Boy. Game Boy ding. Underrated.
Pretty good.
Underrated. Also, he says, P.S., you should definitely do a Red Dead Redemption game club before the sequel comes out.
Why are we always talking about that game?
That'd be fun. I'd love to. I love the PS2 weird, shadowy, faulty towers.
Descent into darkness.
Yeah, it's cool, atmospheric. I like it when a console boots up and it just presents you with more than gaming could possibly ever provide. Like the PlayStation 3, like the full orchestra.
Here's this abstract fantasy that like we allude to but never like quite fulfill.
Right.
Feels like a waking dream. I like the other end of the spectrum, just pure fun, silliness, like the GameCube boot up, like the little like cube that's just twirling around. That's
I
fun.
still think
I'm with you on that 100%.
I think PS1 I think is still probably my favorite.
Yeah.
Just that booming THX or THQ. THQ sound that just like fills your speakers. I think it's a really good
That was the PS1?
PS1? Yeah.
Yeah.
Original PlayStation.
All right.
You don't remember it filling your speakers?
It didn't fill me with anything.
Are you calling BS on Serial?
Yeah,
right now?
that's right.
Oh my God. Speaking of sounds, you guys, Mr. Hardy from Seattle writes in and says, hey, I have a question about the most iconic sound in video games. What is the most recognizable sound from any video game ever? What sound could be identified by the most folks?
Mario's coin block, right?
Mario Coin? Over Mario Jump?
Sonic Ring?
Sonic
say?
Ring.
Sonic Ring has the convenience store
It
advantage.
has the huge convenience store advantage. But
But would
recognized.
they
Recognized.
recognize it as that? Oh, that's a convenience store.
That's the sound of a cash register.
Does Sonic work at a convenience store?
I forget the lore.
He's really fast about those transactions. He's just speeding by and making all those sounds.
I'm thinking like
And he's parked in front of the pump.
Sonic doesn't need gas.
Remington, do you have another one?
I'd say the Mario coin's probably good, but maybe the Mario 1-up, like when he gets the mushroom, the like doo-doo, like kind of rising chimes, maybe.
Oh,
Yeah, I feel like it's got to be Mario.
Zelda chest.
Yeah.
Like
I feel like
recognizable,
anything, pretty much most of like the familiar sounds from Super Mario Brothers are probably.
Yeah. Dude, I think you're right, dude. Tyler from us in Texas says, hey, everybody. Based on Kyle's remark about Inside last week, he said, what is a moment in gaming that made you stop in awe?
What was Kyle's remark last week? He was like,
there's
I
like a
love...
gate that was tripping him out or something. And
Oh, okay.
this is the stopping in awe. I like the stopping, right? You have the option to move on. It's not like a cutscene, but you're just like, wait a minute. I think of like the opening of Mass Effect 2 when the Normandy's all blown up, and then you're like walking around and it's just relatively quiet in space, and you're just like seeing the Normandy exposed to outer space. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's cool. I got Inside in the brain now. Like the end of Inside is really good. Like it was like, what the hell is happening? Like,
and that filled you with awe.
it filled me with awe. That's right. Maybe it's not applicable.
I think the end of Nier Automata. I think that was sort of the last moment that I can remember where I was just like, holy cow.
The E ending?
Yeah, the E ending. Yeah.
Someday I'm gonna have to look that up.
It's not
I
worth
feel
it.
bad.
It's not worth it.
Hey, do you like VR games, Remington?
I just got one of those Google Pixel VR things for Christmas, whatever they're called.
That's
the Dream,
cool.
something Dream, whatever. Dreamview, Dreamcast, something
We'll
like that.
go with it. Well, here's a question from Chris H. in Pleasantville, California. He says, hey, I need your help. Some 18 months ago, I reached out and asked you what must-own PS4 games there were, and you were kind enough to help me out. For our anniversary, my wonderful girlfriend bought me a PSVR setup after hearing me talk about it a couple times in the past. She bought me the Doom bundle, and it's fine. The Impatient is also fine. What are games that I absolutely must play and should buy on my PlayStation VR?
Probably Res Infinite. I think
Ooh,
it's
Oh, that's a good one.
that's a
Good
great
pull.
one. Moss, Kyle had a fine time with recently. If you're looking for something else, that's totally fine.
It's tough because I don't know the PSVR store as well as I do other things.
Yeah.
I really like on Vive. I like just their base toy box. What is it? Now I can't remember the name of it. I really love it though. It's really really
Playroom VR.
Good. Yeah, the
isn't it?
Playroom VR. That was my story.
That's pretty good. Rec Room is now on PlayStation VR. And
Oh,
I would
yeah, that
highly
was a good
recommend
one.
that. But it's very silly. If you just want to
Yeah.
dink around and have a good time, that'll be the way to go.
I really like
They
Here
have
They
a
Lie.
tabletop VR simulator.
Tabletop? Yeah. I don't know if that's on
shout
Sony,
out.
but Leo definitely, his ears have perked up. Hey, Remington, it's like you listen to this show or something. It's just bizarre, man.
Can you play Drop Mix on the tabletop simulator?
I'm sure Leo's found a sick way with
Yeah,
that
a sick
tortured
mod.
mind.
Oh
of
my
his.
gosh, his head's about to
That's why that
explode.
thing didn't sell because they put it in tabletop.
You idiots.
I really liked the Here They Lie when it came out. It was a early PSVR, but in terms of like, hey, here's a lot of cool environments that you get to see in VR.
Yeah.
I think that's still a really good move.
Good move. Remington, question of the week, email of the week. What do you like?
Oh, my favorite one? I don't know. Like the. Can you run through them again for me?
No.
We've
All
gone
of them.
through quite a few.
There's so many of them. I like Kyle from St. Louis who wrote in like crunching the numbers in a beautiful spreadsheet,
pretty
like
good.
taking
That
care
does
of like
sound
our
good.
top tens and what actually.
That's the one that I would have picked.
The one I also
I don't
like
work
is
at
describe
GIS,
a game.
Not quite my favorite.
Oh, where's my picks? I
too.
also really like the describe a game badly.
That is fun, isn't
Describe a
it?
game
thought
badly
that was a good one.
as well.
I don't.
I'm gonna bring that up again.
Hang on, Remington, you're saying no on that one?
Well, no. The describe again badly was good. I just got confused because it was like, do you want to describe a game just like be poor at describing what a game is about?
Right. I think that's the idea. Is how vague can you make it? How many games top 300 have you beaten? Also fun.
I like that one a lot.
Oh, really? You like that one the most?
Yeah. Puts you guys to the test for sure.
That is true. I like having that fun numerical breakdown. I'll give it to that. You guys on board for that?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, there we go.
Totally
Good
on
job,
board.
Remington. Eric Garcia from San Diego, California will ship out something real nice. You will absolutely love it. I 100% promise. Remington, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of the Game Informer Show, sir.
Of course.
Do you have any parting words of wisdom for us?
Well, I am actually making a game and I was hoping to have a chance to talk at least a little bit about it for the
Here
most
we
part.
go. This wasn't
Yeah.
altruism at all. He's did it
No.
for a corporate purpose. But you're kickstarting a card game?
Yes, we are actually kickstarting a card game and launching it in June. It's called Nights at the Wrong Table. You can find it on a website, Nights at the Wrong Table with a K, not an N.
That's good.
And you can also find us on Instagram at Nights at the Wrong Table.
How do you spell
Whatever.
table with a
Just find
K?
us on Instagram.
Shut up. And you promise this is going to be a fun game?
It involves a lot of drinking, so maybe. Depends
All right.
how much.
There we go.
Yeah.
I like
Cool.
the name, by the way. I think
It is-
that's good.
It is a
it's a
really
good-
good name. Remington,
Thank you.
thank you so
And then
much
before
for
I go,
Oh, yeah.
huge shout out to the kids at East Junior High for helping me get here. I really missed those guys already.
Oh, that's very sweet. Thank you. And hey, Study art, kids.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right. Eat your
paint.
eat your vegetables.
Eat your arts.
And your paint.
Oh, I hope we helped out, Remington.
Oh boy.
Thank you so much for listening to the show, man. Really appreciate you participating in the GI Show Challenge. Hope you had a good time. For now, stay tuned for an interview with Chris Charla talking about the current state of Xbox, Microsoft, indie games, getting games on that platform, him going back, talking about the founding of IGN. A lot of fun stuff, so stay tuned for that. Chris Charla, welcome to the Game Informer Show, sir.
Thank you. You guys are at issue 300. I'm so excited.
Oh my God, you've been paying attention to our magazine. Yeah, it's wild, man. Well, like you used to be involved with the magazine back in the day. How did that go?
Yeah, absolutely. And Game Informer was one that we always thought the Game Informer guys were super cool, and they were a competitor, but it was awesome. And so I saw I just saw the last issue, and I was like, oh, $2.99, and then I was like, issue 300's coming. Like something special's gonna happen. So I don't know what's happening, but I assume that I'm gonna get something special and awesome. Although I also got the sticker on it that said, this is your last issue. So I gotta get over to, I gotta get to GameStop and resubscribe.
Oh man, we timed it poorly for it. Yeah, so that was Next Generation Magazine. Like, what era were you there? What time frame?
So I was at Next Gen from I think I got there around issue 8 to just about the end to about I left I think in 2000 to go do some other magazines like Dreamcast magazine and a couple other launch magazines. And so actually I left for a little while to start IGN, and then I went back, and then I left again, and then I went into development.
I like just the subtle name drop of and then I guess I founded IGN, and then I moved on to some other things in my life. I don't know. All right, so the magazine stuff. Let's start with there. So through that era then, going up until 2000, do you remember your most memorable interview? What was the most stressful day, coolest dev moment? Let's get some good stories from back in that era.
It was amazing because, you got to understand, I was somebody who had just spent my whole, childhood making fanzines and, little magazines, even when I was, 6 and stuff. I always loved magazines. I always loved video games. And then after college, I got a job at this Macintosh magazine, and so actually subscribed to Next Gen, which people probably don't know, but it was the U.S. version of Edge, and it was a really cool magazine, and it was a magazine that took video games seriously, and treated video games as adult entertainment, not adult entertainment, but like a serious legitimate form of media and entertainment, at a time when the kind of prevailing wisdom was video games for kids and that kind of thing. And I actually subscribed to the magazine at a CES or something, came home one day, and there was this Jaguar issue for the Atari Jaguar, just waiting on the floor of my flat, and it just said Pussycat with the Jaguar scorches on it or scratches on it. And I was just this magazine is amazing. I have to work here. And through
finally dignity.
Just by being extremely lucky, I ended up getting a job there. And but the cool thing about it was really seeing how serious everybody was, and getting to write feature articles, and okay, you're gonna write. This isn't a luxury like a lot of journalists have now. We're writing a feature article about this, so you're gonna fly someplace and interview somebody, and you're gonna do these other interviews on the phone, and then you're gonna spend a week. This was kind of at the very beginning of the internet, pre-internet, you're gonna spend a week at the library, reading and doing research, and you're gonna put that into an article. It was just so satisfying to do to do that kind of journalism, and then just to get to meet everybody. I think in that era between Next Gen and Dreamcast magazine and IGN and everything, I met every single one of my gaming heroes with the exception of John Carmack, but everybody else. I mean, and that was just contingency because somebody else went to go do the Carmack interview.
Sure. Who was number one? Who was number one for you back in the day that you were most excited to meet?
For me personally, it was definitely the Infocom guys.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I did some cool interviews with Brian Moriarty and Steve Moretsky, because I'd been really into those old text adventures back in the day. But then the the most fascinating one, and I was just thinking about it this morning because you just did an AMA on Reddit, was Bill Gates. So we got to fly up and interview Bill Gates, and that was a super cool experience.
What stood out about interacting with Bill Gates?
So, professionally, just from the interview, just how smart he was, how on the ball he was, how much he, really knew what was going on, obviously. And then on a personal level, the thing that we talked about on the whole plane ride home was, we got to this room where the interview was, and it was kind of like this prototypical home at Microsoft, and so it had was set up with a kitchen because you could do voice control and stuff like that, and Bill Gates walks in and he's just like, "Hey, how you guys doing? Do you want a Fresca?" And my boss and I looked at each other and we're like, the world's richest man just offered us Fresca. Absolutely, we want a Fresca. And so Bill Gates got us Fresca, and it was I don't know, it was kind of a cool moment. So.
And was this about the launch of the Xbox, or was this Age of Empires,
no,
or?
This was back in '98. I think this was just talking about Windows gaming. I think it was sort of pre-Windows 98, and just how Windows gaming was a big push, but it was pre-Xbox.
Yeah. Is it bizarre to see how much Bill Gates still comes up? I mean, there's still comments just flooding YouTube for so many Microsoft videos where it's F you, Bill Gates. It's his presence is still felt so much,
Yeah, but I think maybe there's some memes about that, but if you look at first of all, the work that he's doing with his foundation is literally world changing. I can't imagine a better thing to do with the world's biggest fortune that he had than what he's doing now. It's just mind boggling. And then if you look at what he does on Reddit, he's a cool guy. You know what I mean? First of all, he's saving the world, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And then he's still obviously very interested in technology and everything like that, and he's funny, and he does these funny Reddit videos, and he seems like a cool guy. I mean, that was my one interaction with him, but I am a huge fan of his.
It's still just bizarre, and I know the internet's commented on this 1,000 times, but it still cracks me up the idea that he's literally saving a gigantic percentage of the world's population. It seems like a cool guy overall, but he's just kind of dorky looking. Steve Jobs, he was an but he was cool, he had a cool swagger about him, so we should worship him instead.
I don't know. I think Bill Gates is a pretty cool dude. So I will leave it there.
I just said, are you in the same office as him right now? I meant to ask you. If you just rotate the camera around. No, so, do you ever miss the old press days? If you could go back and, run a magazine again, what would you do with it?
I really don't. It was really cool, and so I miss getting to focus on a feature article where you really just dive in deep and learn something. And I miss some of that, but I get a lot of the same satisfaction from getting to meet developers now.
Yeah.
So I get to go around. The coolest part of my job is I get to go around and talk to tons of developers and have obviously talk to them about their games, but then of course you go to lunch, you go to dinner, and you get to have these cool deep conversations. That don't get shared, and so you probably learn a little bit more and hear a little bit more, and so I really like that part of it. Without question, getting to interact with developers is by far the most fun part of my job.
Yeah, is there a party though, just from that press background, where you're out to dinner, you have a long conversation with an amazing developer, they're so smart, it's I wish this was being recorded. I wish I could jot down notes and share this with the world, because it's not sensational stuff. It's just a way to share how smart these people are.
Absolutely. I actually do think that. I actually was someplace yesterday, and I was having lunch with a developer, and we were talking about they had been a producer at a publisher at the same time I was working at a developer, and we had worked together, not directly, but we knew tons of the same people, and we were really talking about the way the game industry in a specific place was in kind of the early 2000s. And it was just a lot of fun. Just a lot of names came up, and what's this person doing now? What's that person doing now? But also talking about the way games got made then. It's not, none of the games we worked on were famous games. None of them are remembered games. They were just games that came and went. And I think we celebrate we celebrate obviously the hits and the really important games really, really well in the game industry, and we do a pretty good job documenting what was going on around those and stuff like that. But I think that what I thought after the lunch, and even talked about it a little bit at lunch, was that the one level down, or in this case maybe 4 levels down, part of the game industry, the kind of work-a-day game industry, is not nobody's memorializing that. Not that it should be memorialized as something great, but nobody's just memorializing that in a way that is going to be there for future scholars. So it did spark my mind, when I was driving, dropped the guys off and was driving away after lunch. Just I would love to do not a podcast, but I'd love to have recorded that lunch and been able to send it to someplace, under seal and say, like, don't open this for 25 years because we named names and we gossiped and we did everything else. But in 25 years, maybe this will actually be interesting to somebody. And so, so I do miss that kind of part of it sometimes.
Game Informer's been around for like 27 years at this point. If you want to record every lunch you have and just slip us those files, we promise to save it for the 600th issue. We'll not seal it until then. It'll be perfect.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think there's something to that. Like, there's so much like great history work that's starting to be done around games right now with like the stuff that they're doing at the Strong Museum and the National Video Game Museum and the stuff Frank Cifaldi's doing with the Video Game History Foundation. So we're starting. It's good because we are hitting that point now where the pioneers are getting older and they're not all with us anymore. From that 2600 era and everything like that. And so we're starting to like actually pay attention to our history in a cool way. And so I think it's something that we need to think about more and more. Is just like, as much as we're looking forward, and that's like the place where we should be looking, just as like a fan of games, like I want to make sure we're like, looking backwards too and remembering our history. And it makes me super happy to know that your guys' vault is there, and that like even if it's not that organized, I know Frank's been up there to check it out. Like it's there, and like it's not going anyplace. I've seen the door, and so it just makes me happy to know that stuff exists. Like,
oh, that's nice. How do you feel like Microsoft's doing overall with honoring history and remembering history? I mean, do they have archives of like prototypes of the original Xbox design, stuff like that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Look into it, man.
I focus on at work. Like I focus on, just like other stuff. So I'm not 100% sure actually.
Okay. Well, what are you focusing on? Do you want to give people just a surface level pitch of what your job is day to day?
Yeah, so I run the ID at Xbox program, which is a good sized team at Microsoft, and we, at the core level, we help developers get their games onto Xbox One. Independent developers and Windows 10 with Xbox Live, and just kind of like help make that stuff happen.
And so developers just call you up and say, hey, I'm vaguely interested, or are you just reading Twitter and sending a lot of DMs saying, hey, are you interested, or how does the flow work?
Yeah, so it goes every way you can imagine. So tons and tons of people join the program every day and every week to say like, hey, I've got a game, I want to get it on an Xbox, I'm not part of the program yet, like, here it is. At the same time, we're also like at trade shows, we're, local shows, we're always out there like looking for cool games, asking people, hey, do you know about ID at Xbox? Have you thought about console? And when we first started, nobody knew, no one, was thinking about it. And now, like a lot of times I'll be at a show and I'll say, oh, this game looks really cool. Have you thought about bringing it to Xbox? I'm like, oh yeah, we're part of ID. We have dev kits. I'm like, okay, awesome. And then, of course, we look at Twitter, or people like message us on Twitter and say, you guys need to check this game out. And, so we look everywhere. And things come to Xbox everywhere you can imagine, from somebody who works at Microsoft, like, this game's cool, my buddy's working on a game, to, folks who just, go through the xbox.com/ID portal to, folks who meet at shows and everything like that.
Yeah. Not to single anybody out, but let's single somebody out. Do you feel like Cuphead is the #1 success story so far? An Xbox One, at least?
They're an awesome success story. I don't know if they're the #1. I mean, I think they're really well known, and they've had like a ridiculous level of success, and after crazy amount of work. But I guess the one thing that feels good to me is that to me they're one of like a bunch of success stories we've had on Xbox One through the ID at Xbox program.
Yeah. So what does that look like when a game hits as hard as, for example, a Cuphead? Like, do people high five you in the hallway? Does it boost numbers? What does it mean for you on a day-to-day basis?
Well, yeah, I mean, it sales help, for sure. It feels awesome, like it feels great. Like, and for those guys to have the, obviously with Cuphead, we're pretty intimately, involved in it or familiar with what was going on during the development. I know exactly how hard those guys were working, all the sacrifices they were making. Maya Moldenhauer just did a talk at GDC where she showed herself like literally inking frames for Cuphead while her brand, 2-week-old newborn is like next to her in a bassinet, and she's just inking while the baby's sleeping. Like, that's crazy. And so, that is a level of commitment that is, to me, and I'm not, my wife's had a kid, and so I know what that's like with a newborn like that. That's a lot of work. and for them to see the level of success, like multi-million seller for their game, and for their game to be so good, like I can't. It is like maybe the best, like feel good story, I can imagine that they work so hard, and it just helps that they're like the nicest people, and then for them to have that level of success with a game that is like, I mean, I honestly think people will be talking about that game in 20 years, 30 years. 50 years, it just feels awesome. So it's been, we try not to like rest on our laurels, or we actually don't run around the hallways high-fiving, but it feels really good, and so hopefully we can just keep working on the program and keep making a platform so that other devs can have that kind of level of success.
Yeah. What insight can you share in terms of like your marching orders? Are you pull into a meeting once a month and people say, Chris, bring home those exclusives now, let's do it? Or what are your specific orders for what types of games to find and how to bring them home?
Yeah, it's not really like, I mean, our number one marching order, and it's really been the same since the program started, is just like make it easy to ship on Xbox.
Yeah.
Like if we make it easy for developers to ship on Xbox, like everything else takes care of itself. Like that will ensure that we get this broad variety of games. That and once we have that broad variety of games, there'll be lots of neat games in there that we look at and say like, okay, this is really cool. Like let's talk to these guys. Like let's make sure the world knows about this game. And so it kind of comes from the bottom up. It's not a top down like. The directive of like, it'd be cool if you just went out and picked hits is great, but that's not the way the world works. You know what I mean? Like, it's more about like trying to provide this like fertile ground for all developers to get started in, and then you see what's looking really cool, and then you go talk to those. Talk to those folks.
Yeah. So you're actually giving a speech at GDC about the ID at Xbox program. What do you have in mind for that presentation?
So, excuse me, sorry, I've got a cold. So one of the things that we're going to do in that talk is we're probably going to share some numbers that about development on Xbox. And I think it's one of the toughest things for game developers today is to understand, especially game developers who are developing for digital distribution, to understand like what do sales look like, what do marketplaces look like, what game genres are doing well, what has a good long tail, what does a good long tail mean, and so we're going to try and share some numbers, not specific games, but more like generalized from our experience. With helping more than like 700 games come to market through the ID program, that kind of explains like the in some ways the market opportunity on Xbox, which is ridiculous and awesome, and then also just kind of informs some things people should know about the genre. There's a service called Steam Spy that tracks or derives sales on Steam, which I think has been really, really valuable for developers, and we want to try and add some data points from Xbox so that developers can start to have like a good sense of like where things are. And then I think also in the talk I'll be just talking about Microsoft's going to have some pretty fun announcements at GDC this year, and I'll be either teasing them or previewing some of them in my talk as well.
So would this be public information, or would it be part of the ID at Xbox program that you would share sales data?
So the talk at GDC is public,
yeah.
Right? So anything we say will be public. So we won't be saying like, oh, this game sold this many units, but we may, we'll be saying, like games in general are doing like this, and the market size looks like that, and
okay,
that kind of thing.
It's interesting. If
we're working out exactly what we're going to say right now.
Yeah. So like you bring up Steam Spy, which is a great resource for us. It's really beneficial to check out numbers. What is the downside of making that public for Xbox's games?
I don't think there's any downside. Obviously we always respect the developers' confidentiality, and we won't share numbers because that data is actually owned by the developer, not by us.
Interesting.
And so, if it's a case where there's only one or two games in a genre, I can't tell you how the genre is doing because I'm really revealing how a specific game is doing at that point.
Yeah.
But what we can share is general information and trends and that kind of thing. But I think what it does. Hopefully it just helps developers make more informed decisions. I think there's a lot of criteria to evaluate success on as a game developer. Certainly there's I think creative success maybe is the most important one. Are you satisfied creatively with the game you're making? And then there's just like the success of the satisfaction from just finishing a project that you started. But then there's commercial success, and I don't think we should be shy. Certainly us at Microsoft, when we're talking to developers, we shouldn't be shy about like talking about commercial success, because that's another important metric of success. And so working with developers so they can understand, what a game can do. A game can always break out, and a game can always kind of flop. But understanding like what a game is, like what the marketplace are launching into for that genre, for that art style, for this, for that. I think just informing developers about that is something that we can do. And it's kind of our responsibility as a platform holder, and that helps developers make more informed decisions about what they work on and where they want to innovate and everything like that. So.
Yeah. Is there anything that just coming through the data so far, is there anything that really surprises you? Is there something like a genre that's much more popular than people would think?
No, there's always surprises. I think the awesome thing about that we've seen from digital distribution, like as a whole, in the last 10 years, and we're kind of 10 years since, to the way I think of it, the kind of indie revolution started with that first summer of arcade, where indie games kind of really first burst into mainstream consciousness on console. Has been how many places there are where developers can succeed is just ridiculous. And when you have a worldwide audience and you're not constrained by the traditional distribution methods of like physically making a disc and putting it on a boat and then putting it on a truck and then putting it in a store, you can reach an audience that maybe is smaller than others, but really exists in a place where you can have like a sustainable business. But because it's worldwide, it wouldn't be sustainable to try and do that with like physical distribution. But with digital distribution, you can. And so the beauty of that is just that it's enabled so many more game types. Like I don't think I was an independent developer for 10 years, and in the days when I was an independent developer, it was you had to pitch to publishers who had capital, who could build discs and fun games and everything like that. It was fine. But I don't think Cuphead would have gotten made. Like I know Cuphead wouldn't have gotten made. If an advertising executive and a guy who worked in the family construction business and a financial services person who was really good at art went and pitched a game and we're like, we're gonna make this like hand animated game. We're gonna animate every frame by hand. It's gonna take years, and we've never made a game before. Can we do it? Like the answer, just would have been no.
Right.
It's not even. And so the fact that, with the democratization of development, with, tools like, Unity and Unreal, with programs like ID at Xbox and to enable platform access, a team like the Moldenhauers and Studio MDHR can just go for it and just like follow their passions and follow their dreams. And it's not a guarantee of success. Certainly they've been successful, but a lot of games are, not every game is a success. It's not a guarantee of success, but I think like for most people, people understand that, and you don't expect success from everything you do, but like what you really want is you want your shot. You want the ability to like go for it and see what can happen. And in the olden days in video games, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, to even 10 years ago, you had teams that like couldn't get a shot, and who knows what games could have been made by, men and women who are now working in the insurance industry or substitute teachers or whatever, because they just didn't get a shot in 1995 or 2002. And then today we have Cuphead and tons of other like super innovative, cool independent games because those developers have their shot. And to me, that's like, I don't know, it's just super powerful, and it charges me up, and it gives me, and I speak for the whole team here. Like I know I'm the face of it, but I know like our whole team feels this way. Like it gives us at Microsoft and at Xbox like a huge sense of responsibility. Like like we're like enabling these folks to take their shot. Like we better do a good job and do a good job for them, because I sure don't want to be the reason like a great game doesn't come into existence. And so
But on the flip side, not to be negative, but it's got to be so tough to be the gatekeeper as well and try and curate something, because I know that's like Steam's overall philosophy is like anything goes. You never know what games people want and what they might be searching for, so let's let everything on. And then as a result, the Steam marketplace is just a cluttered mess. So how do you balance that?
Yeah, it's tricky. So we kind of dealt with some of those same issues. So with ID and on Xbox, games have concept approval, and that is really, a bar to make sure that the game hits like a minimum level of, sort of what a console gamer expects in terms of quality. It's not a guarantee that the game's good. You can find bad games on any platform. But we have that. But that debate about, the open, the power of curation to make sure that everything's going to hit like a minimum bar versus the power of openness to make sure you don't miss anything is a tricky one. And the way we solved it on Xbox was with the Xbox Live Creators Program. And so what Creators Program is a cool program that Microsoft has where like literally anyone can buy an Xbox, turn it into a dev kit, download, free versions of Visual Studio, Unity, whatever they want, and ship a game. And ship it with no restrictions, no concept approval. You never have to sign an NDA, anything like that. And you can ship it on Xbox. And I think that's fantastic because that is finally the true openness of the opening of the platform, full democratization of game development. At the same time, I think you made some comments about marketplaces that get crowded. And so the way we solved it on Xbox after, a huge amount of internal debate and discussion was that we, have this completely open platform. We have the creators program that anyone can ship a game into, but it is on console, it's in a separate place so that you know what you're getting into. You know that these are games that are not, like traditional console games. And then we also make it so that it's very straightforward. If a developer ships into the creators program and then later it's like, oh, I want this to be, like to have achievements, to have gamer score, to be in the main store. It's really straightforward for them to come through ID to make that happen.
Gotcha. Does the shift with Game Pass affect you at all? Having exclusives come through that program, does that affect ID at Xbox?
I mean, if you look at Game Pass today, there's a ton of ID, games that come through ID at Xbox that are in Game Pass, and so we think it's like a cool opportunity for developers, and obviously like a really neat thing for fans as well to be able to get access to that many games for like a low monthly price.
Yeah, how does that affect discussions then with developers? Just saying like, hey, if you want to be part of Game Pass, you can. That's a separate channel that we'll put you through.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't affect like how you ship your game on Xbox. Like obviously, you need to go through certification, you need to get your achievement, you just need to ship like standard game. It's more like, as you said, it's like a separate discussion. We've had people come to us and say, like, hey, Game Pass sounds really cool. How do we be involved? And we see games that were like, oh, this would be really fun to put in Game Pass. And so so we have like those additional discussions.
Okay, but there's no clear delineation about like what types of indie games will always be included in Game Pass moving forward.
No, I think it's basically game to game.
Okay.
Like, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, hey, Chris, 2018 in general, what are you looking forward to? What are you really excited to get out there, to play, to discuss more?
Really excited to play Below.
You promised 2018? You really think it's coming?
I'm not going to promise it. But I'm really excited to play Below. I haven't played Below in like several years actually. I had this I've talked about it before. I had this like maybe one of the best gameplay and worst gameplay experiences I've ever had in my life with Below. And after that, I just resolved I was not playing that game till it was out, and I'm gonna play it in 2018.
It's really funny. I went back because I interviewed you right when you announced ID at Xbox at Gamescom. We were in Germany in 2013, and I went back and watched that interview before this one. And like the main piece of B-roll I was using for gameplay as an example was Below footage, and it's very funny. Like 5 years later, still waiting on Below.
It's gonna be worth it. I assure you.
All right, it's a weird one. Okay, so Below's number one.
Yeah, and then there's so many great games coming out. I think Deep Rock Galactic just shipped today into Xbox Game Preview, which is a super super fun like 4-player co-op. So it's a 4-player co-op space mining action game.
That sounds good.
Where it's awesome. You drop ship onto a planet. You have to hit these goals and get out before the drop ship leaves, and it is stressful and hectic, and you get attacked, and it is unbelievable. It's super super cool.
Awesome. Are you guys already planning for E3? Getting excited for E3 already?
Yeah, actually, I was just at an E3 meeting, so planning starts early, just in terms of logistics and everything like that. But I think there'll be some awesome games at E3 this year.
Okay, so without revealing anything, scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you for Xbox's show at E3 this year so far?
11.
11. All right, good answer, man. That's good. Well, hey, anything else you want to get off your chest?
No. It was good chatting, and hope to see lots of people at GDC and E3, and please let us know what you want us to do with Xbox and ID at Xbox and everything else.
There we go. All right. Thank you so much, man. And thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. Be sure to tune in next Thursday when we'll have another new episode waiting for you. Bye, everybody.
When you look at post Magic the Gathering, for us there are a couple of sort of interesting points along the way, like as sort of designers and people who are thinking about customers. Like Pokemon did this amazing job of doing some, still probably the benchmark for saying, if you're trying to do a game, if you're trying to do a trading card game as well, if you're trying to do, linear media, they really have done it better than anybody else. Like, it is still the single most valuable entertainment franchise in history. More than the Super Bowl, more than certainly any of Valve's products, more than Harry Potter. Pokemon is that. So that's why that's important. Chronex was interesting because it was the first it was the first digital online trading game. It's an answer to a trivia question, but it's kind of an important one to answer. Hearthstone is a great game. Right now, we would say that that's really the benchmark online trading card game. We think they do a lot of really smart things, and obviously, we've been fans of Blizzard and Blizzard products for a long time. So, if you're trying to understand how we think about this, it's interesting to know both what we think and how we're setting it out, but also what we're not, right? It's like we're doing this, but we're not doing this. It sort of helps clarify, what our decision-making process is. Like a TV show, we think Pokemon's awesome, right? We think that there's some really clever stuff that they did. We think that the TV show is an important part of that. We're not trying to do that, right? In that specific case, we think that would be a fine thing to go do, but that's an example of something that we're not doing.